and you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds, and when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
From Texas Motor Speedway, the Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series has come into town guns a-blazing for an Old West shootout. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fort Worth, Texas. Bobby Blazer ran a dominance clinic last week by leading 186 laps at Martinsville, reining in his first win of the 2024 season, while we got to see Uncle Scott's favorite driver, Brandon Minto, ascend to the throne, leading our point standings. Now, as we get ready to duel it out here in the great state of Texas, grab some brisket, call a friend, and settle in with an Alamo beer as we present to you the Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series live from Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Dave Regal, and tonight I want to welcome my special guest announcer, the fearless leader of the SNN family of racing series from Fairview, Tennessee, Chris Claude, who makes a first-time trip as my partner here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth. And as always, we're thrilled to be with you every step of the way, from the green flag to the checkered flag, right here on Sim Racing Media. And Chris, what an absolute joy it is to have you with me tonight. We haven't sat in the same Discord channel in almost a year for an entire race.
Yeah, it's been a lot longer than what it should have been, and I'll have to admit that this is a pretty unique experience for me to be able to see the race from this perspective out, and hopefully I'll be able to pick up some tips from some of these guys from watching them rather than being on the track with them. I don't feel like I can absorb as much information, and it should be a good race though, if it's anything like the Cup race last night.
Yeah, last night's Cup race was a thing of beauty, especially after coming off of 2 short track races where we were just littered with all things yellow. And now, of course, tonight we have more of the same as we go ready to do the Texas two-step here at Texas Motor Speedway. 1.5 miles around this piece, 107 degrees the track temperature, 77 comfortable degrees, however, in the grandstand. And, tonight is going to be slightly shorter than last night. Of course, 200 laps around this piece, with stage breaks going to be at lap 45 and 96 tire sets for these drivers. So that's going to put that pit window down to about 50 to 55 laps. How do you think that these drivers are going to handle the changing track conditions and, of course, those tires getting ready to wear out?
Well, it at least sounds like that the track is not nearly as warm as it is. It's kind of hit that sweet spot that you were talking about last night, or the witching hour, where they will eventually run into some really good grip that may start out a little dicey in the beginning of the race, but we're not going to see any conditions near what we saw last night. I think they should be able to get some really good lap times in from the get-go, and they'll probably just get better as the race goes on.
Well, and speaking of those lap times, qualifying underway here, let's take a peek and see where we are so far. It looks like darn near everybody has already laid out their lap times. However, Alex Princeton has yet to do so. Of course, it's going to be 38 drivers making the field tonight. And, of course, there are exactly 38 drivers in the session. So right now we're taking a look at Lake Elmo, Minnesota's very own Alex Princeton. And, I tell everybody, Chris, I remember when Alex Princeton first came into this league a couple of years ago, and I thought he was driving the Caribou coffee machine. And I thought, who's this guy just rocketing through the field? And he has proved himself to be, a stalwart opponent here in this league.
Yeah, he is a heck of a driver and a great admin for our league as well, if you weren't aware. And he's a great ambassador, and I'm proud to have him on my team for trucks in the Xfinity. He does run for another team in Cup. I believe he is actually running with BTR. It was just the truck series that he is actually running for Joe Gibbs. But at any rate, he has always been a top quality driver, and regardless of which different series that he's run in.
Yeah, I mean, right now he just took 21st position on his opening lap of qualifying. Now, he's one of those drivers where, he uses as much of the track as he can during, the opening lap, that out lap, and then, of course, really starts to crank up the heat as he works lap number 2. He does so coming out of turn 4 and rolling through the quad oval, crossing the start-finish line, and let's see if he improves that time at all. He does, up to 19th position, so it's kind of an interesting way for him to get around and boogie through this place. A lot of traffic tonight, as he's going to have to go from 19th and try to fight his way up toward the top of the pile, which, of course, I currently see Mike Wright sitting on top of everybody, and this is going to be I'm quite frankly afraid that Mike Wright is about to put on a clinic tonight, because the 1.5 milers are just his bread and butter in this realm.
He is the mile-and-a-half whisperer. If he really is, I would have loved to have seen Parker be able to make it out tonight and see what he could do against Mike Wright at a mile-and-a-half, because it'd be interesting to see how close they will be running. But at any rate, I'm actually glad that we have exactly 38, because it means we have a full field, but nobody has to go home empty-handed, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, a lot of times, you might have 39 or 40, and those one or two drivers that wants to try to make the start, unfortunately misses, which, it does happen in the real world. And I've always been fascinated by real world racing. You spend all this time and money and research and, sponsors and so on and so forth, and you might haul your cookies from North Carolina all the way to Texas, only to be sent home empty-handed. And at least in iRacing, all you have to do is click escape and you're out of there. But in the real world, sometimes you have a 14, 15, 16-hour drive back to wherever the race stable is.
Yeah, you really hear about that a lot more in the Xfinity and the Truck Series. The Cup Series with the charters and everything, you don't typically have many teams, maybe except with the exception of the Daytona 500 and some of the premier races the crown jewels that they have. Uh, in the Sometimes in the Cup Series, you'll have less drivers than in the Xfinity Series. So it's kind of interesting. But you're absolutely right, though. In Xfinity and trucks, it happens pretty much on a regular basis in real life, and I can only imagine how disappointing that is to have a team go all the way down there and not be able to make it.
Yeah, and of course, as I had mentioned, 200 laps the scheduled distance tonight, 300 miles, and these drivers. Of course, we were bitten by the caution bug the last couple of weeks. Last night was, as I said on the air, just a breath of fresh air, for lack of a better term. I mean, after you sit and you get, pigeonholed by caution after caution after caution, being able to run those 267 laps last night with so few cautions was just, it was great to sit up here in the booth and finally get to see some good racing after, 2 weeks of, short track mayhem.
That stretch of races from the middle of March until the 1st of April is always brutal for the league as a whole, just because of the races that we have the short tracks. We have COTA, just some races that are tough on a lot of the guys in here that are more of your traditional mile-and-a-half super speedway. I think that's where most of their strengths lie. And I think there's probably more guys that have strengths with the short tracks also over the road courses. But now that we're in this part of the series, or the part of the season, I suspect that we're going to see a lot more green flags, a lot more green flag stops, and that's what people at home want to see, and it's certainly what the drivers here in the race want to see.
Yeah, and this league is ever growing, folks, and if you're still interested in joining, of course, you can reach out to Chris over on iRacing, of course, in the Discord area. You can always look for our Discord channel. I saw tonight the 63 Brockton Packard, another new face here, driving a Chevrolet Camaro. This league is always growing. I mean, we of course have those guys that are just always here and have been here at least in the last 3 years that I've been associated with this league. How do you explain the stability in this league and always being able to put together good fields and of course great racing?
Well, it's building blocks. You have a few good racers that are in the league, and then they invite other people that they know that are similarly skilled and have a similar attitude, and from there it just grows. And we do have a limit on the number of people that we can have in. We only have so many numbers that we can give out, but we have been fortunate that whenever we do have someone that leaves for whatever reason, we usually have someone else that's able to come in and take their place. And we actually, Brockton that you mentioned before, he took our last number and is in the race tonight. And hopefully he'll be someone that will be around for a long time, because that's what's going to be probably the best for our league as a whole, is to have that stability and have people that everyone is comfortable racing around. And that way you can race someone harder and know that they're going to be able to hold it together and not cause you problems on the track. And that's still where we're trying to get to, and I believe that we're closer than we've ever been as of this year.
Absolutely. Well, before we get moving much further, I want to try to get a hold of our pole sitter, Mike Wright, as I'm going to quick run up here to Ferda and grab him. Last night, I do owe a huge apology to Nolan Hodgson last night, who got stuck. We forgot to move him back, and he got stuck listening to Matt and I for it had to have been 20 laps, and I felt bad for him, but none of that, or that will not be the case tonight as we get a hold of Mike Wright. Hey, Mike, it's Dave and Chris up in the broadcast booth. You got us.
Devor.
Hey, man, listen, here you are sitting on top of the timing line tonight as I'm looking for you out here on the racetrack. Are you not in the car?
I'm not in the car.
Ah, that makes a lot more sense.
You have my full attention.
There we go. As
I'll put my car out there. You can at least have something to show the people.
I got you. I'm right here looking at it. So listen, here's the thing. You sit on the pole tonight. 1.5 miles are your bread and butter, and of course, now all of a sudden Team Ferda is picking up the steam that we've been waiting for all season long. Of course, you're here on the pole tonight. Brandon just moved onto the top of the timing or point standings. What are you thinking as we move in, tonight here at Texas Motor Speedway?
I think we're on a pretty good roll. I think like everybody else, we got kind of hit with the restrictor plate type racing accidents and things like that. So kind of got a slow start. Actually, Brandon actually did pretty well, but Mike and I had some slow starts with that. And once we got into some better tracks, we started getting some better finishes. So these are the tracks that the setups matter, and how you take care of the tires matter, and you kind of get away from people where you're not getting constantly caught up in other people's mess. So I think anytime that happens, you're going to watch our team usually come out pretty well. And so hopefully we'll have some fun tonight. It's going to be slick. So watching what you're doing with the loud pedal is going to be important.
Yeah, especially coming out of turn 4, we saw that being kind of calamity corner. What's up with this paint scheme tonight? The Old Crow paint scheme?
Yeah, so Minto being our resident Air Force member, we decided this year, anytime we have a major Air Force holiday or day of note, we were going to break out some P-51s. So we have Air Force Reserve Day was this past weekend. So here we are, and we'll break them back out for some Memorial Day stuff and Armed Forces days and things like that. So a little something special for the people. I should have got some pictures of the actual plane so you had them available for you. Maybe we do that by the next time.
Well, I happen to notice it, and of course I'm used to, you guys are probably one of the more organized when it comes to changing paint schemes and making us, raise our eyebrows a little bit. And so it's always cool to see what you guys roll out for special events. Of course, we had baseball's opening week, and Brandon really scratched my itch with that, I'm going to call it the Kyle Schwarber paint scheme, so I was excited for that one. But
I thought you'd like that one. I hated painting it, but I thought you'd like it.
Trust me, I was thrilled. And of course, some people who shall remain nameless but sitting in the booth, Braves fans that, just wanted to make me throw up all over the wall. That was for sure. But
we saw how that worked out for me, Dave. That did not work out too well, so I was sticking with Monster Energy.
Absolutely.
We can all agree that the pinstripes on the Yankees are the worst ever. So
yeah, that's fun. We can all come to an agreement there. Well, all right. Listen, Mike, thank you for your time, and I'm sure we're going to see you here at the end of some of these stage breaks.
I'd like to keep it rolling for you.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, Chris, we're going to get ready to go through our starting lineup here as Mike Wright climbs into the car. Looks like most drivers have gotten in there, so let's take a look here at tonight's starting lineup. Mike Wright going to be our pole sitter here on row number 1. He's going to be joined by debut driver tonight there we go, there's the right camera angle. He's going to be joined on the front row by debut driver Brockton Packard out of Zephyrilus, Florida. I've never even had to say Zephyrilus, and there I am ripping that one right on out. Claude Ferland, one of our neighbors from the north, going to be on the inside of row number 2 alongside Bennett Allen from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Brandon Minto and Chris Custer are going to be in row number 3, while row 4 going to feature Charles Eaton and Nick Hansen. Sylvain Jolie and Nolan Hodgson going to hold down the top 10, rounding out row number 5, with Ron Fitting and Michael Wick going to be in row 6. Row 7 featuring Kavaja Holt out of Waynesboro alongside Keith Black from Olathe, Kansas in the 87. Matt Gaskins, a longtime driver here in the MNN Xfinity Series, going to be alongside Dan Morgan out of Dubuque, starting in 16th position. Row 9 goes to Michael Astuto and Sam Bolin, while row 10 and rounding out the top 20 is going to be Alex Princeton and Ethan Ball from Princeton, West Virginia. Mike Pratchik and Richard Pruitt in row number 11, while row 12 features Zach Osborne and Michael Danks. John Wilco out of McAdoo, Pennsylvania, going to be alongside Matt Mackin from Cleveland, Ohio. Bryson Alexander from New York going to be in row number 14 alongside my good friend John Bawalda out of Bel Air, Maryland, starting in 28th position, while row 15 going to feature Brad Gunn on the inside and Cape May, New Jersey's very own Mike McConville starting in 30th. Zachary Vaughn and Randall Watkins from Mr. 305 from the Miami-Dade Fire and Rescue Department, going to be in row number 16, while Andrew Deemer and Ken Ron from Dillsburg, PA, going to be in row 17. Row 18 is Alexander Gangler from Big Rock, Illinois, former race control extraordinaire, alongside Sean Morrow from Calgary, another neighbor from the north. Suddenly we started collecting Canadians as Steve Herring and Rich Jett going to start shotgun on the field in that Tampa Bay Rays double natural number 77. 38 drivers set to
Really
take the
good
green
field.
flag as the iRacing.com pace car dives on down pit road. The only thing that's left to do is it's time to wipe the visor and adjust the 5-point harness. Grandma, grab the Alamo beer and call a friend. Race fans, it's showtime! I'll tell you what, Chris, I almost ran out of breath and time to get through all of these 38 drivers.
I know. It's like I was just saying right before you went green, it's a really, really nice field that we've got going tonight. And I think there's talent sprinkled all throughout the field, and some guys that I would typically see further up front that are in the middle or the back. So we're going to see a lot of movement, definitely a lot of overtaking, and that's what makes it exciting at a track like this, where that has maybe not always produced the best racing. But last night we had 26 lead changes. So, I would expect to see a lot more of the same tonight if we can just keep the race caution free as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm taking a look right here at Brockton Packard in the 63, and I feel like somebody should have warned him ahead of time. Don't try to challenge Mike Wright early on in the run, because all you're going to do is use up your equipment. Wow, Brockton gets loose coming out of Calamity Corner, turn 4. He gets ready to try to go side by side with Mike, and it just doesn't take as Mike lays down fast lap of the race so far at 30.49 seconds. Did anybody warn Brockton that this might not be advisable?
Well, it's really cool to be able to watch Mike in action live like I am tonight, to be able to see just how smooth it is on and off the throttle, and doesn't miss a beat and still keep people behind. But like you see here, he's not afraid to let people pass and go get them later. He'll just keep doing what he's doing, and he'll be fine sitting where he's at. May fall back to the second or third, but probably won't fall too much further back than that, because the tire fall off was pretty severe last night. I imagine it will be tonight also, and he's certainly not going to abuse them. Whoever else is, if they're wise, they will follow suit and do what a lot of these other guys are doing, and just try to get settled and wait for their opportunity.
Yeah, these big throaty V8s working lap number 5, and right now Brockton Packard jumping out to about a tenth of a second lead over Mike Wright. This is actually kind of interesting to watch here atop the pile, but Nick Hansen, as we look back here to the 99 and the 66 going to go at it here. Chris Custer out of Ohio trying to look back here in the rearview mirror, and he sees Hansen in the 99. Hansen looks to the inside as we go toward turn 1. However, watch Ron Fitting just behind. We're going to go on board with Ron as he thought he was going to knife his way underneath Nick, and he thought better of it at probably the right moment to get away from maybe having the nose clipped off here at the 3.
Yeah. I see that what he's doing is trying to keep it as straight as he can early in the race, and I race with him a lot, and he is not afraid at all to be patient for the most part. I think that tonight they want to push it a little bit more, but just depending on what the guys in front of it are doing.
Well, you say about the patience, and I've, for the last couple of years, been calling you Mr. Consistency, and a lot of that is more like Mr. Patience. I think I may soon need to change that, because, I watch you and some of the drivers that you usually race around, and y'all might start, deeper into the field, but then, through patience, through consistency, hitting your marks, as Sam Boland looks to the inside of the 55 of Nolan Hodgson. Always throws me off when Nolan switches from the 12 on a Sunday night to the 55 on Monday. But, I watch you guys hit those marks, drive consistently, and all of a sudden, at the end, I look up and I'm like, oh, 13th, 12th, 11th, 10th. How does that relate and translate, onto the racetrack, and how frustrating can it be, especially early on when you realize that this is my game plan and I've got to stick to it?
Sometimes the game plan is by necessity because I know that other guys are going to be pushing really, really hard, and I don't want to get caught up in a lot of the things that might happen if someone is pushing me too hard and putting my car in bad situations, which is what I try to avoid. Probably more than anything else is just making sure that I don't put myself in any more dangerous situations, at least early on in the race. And it looks like we have our first caution of the night.
Yeah, speaking of dangerous situations, sometimes this is the hardest thing to find when it seems like somebody gets themselves sideways, but they don't slow down enough to register. Maybe you can see it from a race control standpoint, but I can't see who might have brought this out. This might be a debris caution.
Debris.
It's funny. If you're watching what I do on timing and scoring on SDK, if you watch what I do on SDK, there's a threshold where cars have to go a certain mile per hour before they register as having crashed. So if they don't get slow enough, I just assume that it must be debris in the middle of the racetrack, maybe a computer chip or something laying out in the turn. First caution
I'm not
here
able
on
to
lap
see it
11,
yet.
Chris. I'm not sure who done it. Well, we're going to rack them and stack them here. Brockton Packard going to have control of the field. Nobody coming down pit road. It's way too early for that kind of a mess.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Unless you were one of those unfortunate drivers
that
forgot to make an adjustment or forgot to put your race setup in.
Well, there could also be a situation where somebody comes in and they feel like fresh tires may be the difference in them getting stage points and not, that they can work themselves up, and if the race stays green to the end of the stage, maybe the tires may make a difference, because 10 laps here, it does make a difference in your time.
Looks like our race leader going to remain Brockton Packard. He's going to have to start alongside Mike Wright. That's going to be an interesting restart when we get there. Claude Furlan going to be in third, Sylvain Joly in fourth, and now Charles Eaton with Sylvain Joly in fifth. Bennett Allen in sixth, Brandon Minto, Nick Hansen, Kavaja Holt, and Ron Fitting, your top 10. Last night, and I got a chance to talk to him, of course, before going live on the air tonight. Bennett Allen last night was like a man on a mission all night long here at Texas last night.
Yes, he was. I think he had the lead a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to stay for the entire race, but he certainly showed the talent that he has, and probably even more deadly in an Xfinity car, as it's a championship a couple year test.
Yeah, 2022's MNN Xfinity Series champion here in the JCTV Detroit Tigers paint scheme, as he's kept that on from baseball's opening week. I'm not going to be mad. It's the Tigers. They don't really offend me. As he's going to roll around here. He's switched over to a blue oval, as, of course, I'm used to seeing him in a Chevrolet bow tie. So not sure what brought that on. I'm going to have to eventually scratch his brain and find out why he has switched over to the blue oval. As we are side by side, the iRacing.com pace car lights are out. First caution of the night comes out at lap 11, but don't worry, folks. This is, for lack of a better term, uncharacteristic of this league. It's kind of what drove me nuts at Richmond and Martinsville, because this league prides itself on safety. And Chris, I know that you have, over the last 3 years, you have really beaten your brains out trying to find a way to hold people accountable and to get them to drive safer for the sake of good racing. And it's something that I wish that other leagues would copy. I get to see many other leagues as I work here for Sim Racing Media, and it's something to be proud of when you can suddenly string together some caution-free races that, of course, we have seen here. As the iRacing.com pace car comes down pit road, Brockton Packard going to have control of the field. He rolls out of turn 4. And as he just passes that O'Reilly Auto Parts, he hits the Geico restart zone, drops the loud pedal, and we're back underway.
Dave, I never did see with the caution. I'm almost beginning to wonder if there actually was debris in some part of the track, because went through it. It's always a lot easier for me to do this after the race when I have an indicator from iRacing. Okay, this lap the caution came out and this car was involved, and that way I can just go directly to that car and just let it roll, and I'll eventually find out where the contact came from.
Well, oh, geez. Right now I'm watching the 08 of Sylvain Joly battle it out with Bennett Allen, as suddenly we have a three-way battle for fourth position right now. They've kind of gotten themselves into that fighter pilot formation as they're side-by-side coming down the back chute here on lap 15. And as they haul it down here, Bennett's going to get the edge on entry. We can see him burping that throttle with that little bit of exhaust fire coming out of the pipe there underneath the driver's side window. And now all of a sudden Bennett Allen crawls his way into fourth position. He's going to put Claude Ferlin in the crosshairs, and he's going to be the next victim as side by side go Brockton Packard and Mike Wright. All of a sudden Mike Wright has what seems to be a legitimate challenger here in the Xfinity series.
It certainly appears that way, and I know that Mike has never backed down from the challenge, so this is not going to phase him too much. He relishes, and it just makes him a better driver to have guys that can compete with him up front. Because let's face it, I mean, if you get a 2 or 3 second lead or more, it's going to get a little boring after a while. You know, when you're not being challenged, or you're not going to really racing that much, or just driving a tight line around the track.
Whoa. Brockton Packard all over the racetrack in front of Claude Ferlin. That's going to make Ferlin have to check up a little bit. He's kind of up here on the high side, and there's not much grip early on in the race as Packard rides behind Mike Wright. And, first of all, these cars handle a lot differently. It's one solid rear axle here as he draws in ever closer to Mike Wright. He really thinks he's going to give Mike a run for his money as they roll out of 2 and down the back chute.
Now, let's at least acknowledge this. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Brockton is part of the JAR TCR stable. It's the same stable that Parker Retzlaff and Ethan Ball and a lot of these guys come from. So he's probably no slouch when it comes to iRacing and specifically the car. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me that much that he's having this much success this early.
Yeah, it was exciting to see Parker Retzlaff, who, of course, had the real-life pole in the Xfinity Series a couple of weeks ago, then capture the pole and the checkered flag here in our own league. It was great to have him with us, and what a cool guy. I got a chance to speak with him for a little while before the races. Brockton Packard holding on to what seems to be loose as a goose race car in the Niner number 63. Right now trying to hold things together in front of Bennett Allen, and while he was back there kind of fighting that loose condition, that allowed Mike Wright to do Mike Wright things and go out to nearly 0.6 of a second lead here over Packard.
If loose is fast, like they always say, then he ought to be in pretty good shape as long as he can just keep him going around on him.
Yeah, keeping it between the navigational beacons as we drop back here to Charles Eaton in this battle for 5th. He's trying to reel in Sylvain Joly. And even further back is Zach Osborne chasing down Matt Gaskins in the 79. Now, Matt here in his Toyota Supra, he's going to drift up just on the high side of Alex Prinson. So maybe he's going to... All of a sudden, we see 3 different grooves all in one camera shot. As we saw the top, the middle, and the bottom feeding one another. All of a sudden, Zach Osborne getting around Gaskins in the blink of an eye, or what appears to be, as Sam Bolin in the 67 is going to start trying to reel in Princeton and Osborne.
It's great that you're seeing this many different lines and grooves that people are racing, because you don't have to get stuck in just one and basically just fall in line in a nice train around the track. You can actually see guys spread out a little bit more, and this is pretty exciting to watch. I have to admit that. I thought that not being in the race tonight, it would be a little bit more depressed or whatever just from not making it. But I'll have to admit that it's something to just be able to sit back and actually watch the race unfold and see who's going to be able to come away with the victory here tonight.
Yeah, and just as I went back to Michael Danks because he was starting to roll in on Keith Black, Michael Danks came out of turn 4, did that thing that we all see, and he caught just enough of the grass before the start-finish line that it kind of drew him down there, and a little bit of landscaping for the 37. As Danks in a rare start here in the Xfinity Series. You know, this grass, of course, we've all seen the pass on the grass. Everybody seems to try it at least once, whether it's in practice or during race trim, or during race conditions. And, you know, sometimes I feel like it's ill-advised. The pass on the grass was a freak of nature.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys that can pull that off. But Liddell is one of them that did it very well. And I think that most of the time you don't necessarily see passing here, people just having to bail or they have dodge something at the very last moment. Maybe they just get loose. But you will definitely see them mow the grass real quick and try to get right back up on the track. And hopefully they make sure that it's safe to do so. Saw at least 1 or 2 people do it last night in the Cup race. Thankfully, we were able to do it without any incident.
Alex Princeton here in the 19, we can see he's definitely fighting a loose race car as he all but had to baby it coming out of 4. Watching these hands, I mean, you know, he comes out and you can see now he's tight in 1 and 2 and he was loose in 3 and 4. Obviously some adjustments are going to be coming his way when we hit that first round of pit stops. As we're on lap number 26, 20 laps to go here in stage number 1. This is just a really interesting viewpoint, you know, to watch a driver's hands as he does what he does to get her done here on lap number 27.
I think what it does, it shows the people at home that maybe there's some people here that haven't watched a lot of races or don't really understand what goes into cars, quote unquote, just going around and around in circles on the racetrack. There is a lot that goes into getting these cars to be able to turn the way that you want them to at high speed. And that view that you showed of Alex's car is just an example of that.
Gaskins had to be surely ready to check up.
He is flirting with disaster for sure, and hopefully other people are cognizant of that and watching that if they're behind him, knowing that it could very well happen again. And he's another one that he's probably going to need to go and make some adjustments to loosen that car up a little bit or change some tire pressures to where he can make that entry a little bit better and not hit the wall. But as you were saying before, with all the battles we have, I don't know if we had 4 different screens on the broadcast at the same time, if we could capture all the good battles that we have going tonight. That's how fierce that it is.
Yeah, and in fact, just as soon as I clicked away from it, Randall Watkins catches some grass. He comes back on track. You know, one of the things that I'm starting to see with these drivers as we've got now 15 to go in stage 1 here, these drivers, even when they do get loose, as you know, and catch some of that grass, they're able to keep things moving forward as Mike Wright battles what looked to be a connection issue for just a moment. Mike Wright already out to a 2.4 second lead over Bennett Allen as Packard has dropped back to 3rd. And the Canadian contingent here in 4th and 5th going at it here, protecting that top 5 from Nick Hansen in the 99. As, of course, just as I say that, the 08 nearly thought about going 3 wide That was nearly dangerous, but these guys, and sometimes I wish there wasn't the language barrier that we have, because Claude and Sylvain are two of the most talented drivers that I've ever seen, and some of the tightest teammates that I've seen on the server.
Oh, absolutely, and just super nice guys too. You've got to talk with them a lot more than I have for their interviews after the race, and I think that's tremendous that we have a lot of different countries that have been represented here at Eugenio, and trying to think, we have the guys from Australia that won last night. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, which to me that's maybe the most mind-boggling of all the guys. As far, I don't know what the time difference is, if it's like 20-something hours difference between us and Australia, but it's at any rate, it's hard to imagine. Of course, I guess that's probably a little bit easier than maybe someone from Europe trying to do it, 6 or 7 hours away, and being a completely different time of day when our races are. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really cool to have all these different guys from different parts of the country and be able to come and join and do something that we all enjoy here in the States.
One of the things that always that always seems to boggle my mind is the fact that some of these international drivers, I guess in my narrow-minded American way of thinking, I'm like, oh, great, a road racer. He'll kind of be like Juan Pablo Montoya and do really well at Watkins Glen and Sonoma and Coda. And they're actually really, really good here at the ovals, and you don't think it's, wow. All of a sudden, Cavaja looks like he wants to take this one 3 wide, nearly the meat in that sandwich, as Brockton Packard's now dropping back here into 8th position. Looks like he may have cooked the tires a little too soon. You got to slow roast that brisket here in Texas, as now Brockton back into 10th position after starting on the front row. But, I guess in my small-minded, or narrow-minded viewpoint, I think, how can these guys even know what oval racing is when, they don't have NASCAR every week like we do? And then I see them in the server, and I'm like, wow, they're dominant. They're incredible. I mean, they're really, really good.
To me, and maybe just me being naive, I would think that if you were able to be good on a road course, then you should have no problem on an oval. It should be so much easier. Now, there may be a lot more to it than that, but I always thought that it's much more difficult for someone to go from being really strong at ovals to and trying to run a road course. Just because I feel like that some of the ways that the car reacts and everything is applicable to road courses, and I mean there is certainly with the speeds, and you don't typically have the straightaways that you do with the exception of a few tracks. But yeah, it really does surprise me that there's able to just seamlessly get into a track or get into a car that maybe they're not even familiar with. Which I think that may be the more astounding part, is them getting into a car like this Xfinity car that can be difficult to drive and be able to go and dominate the way that some of these guys have done.
Yeah, without a doubt. As we take a quick peek here at the youtube.com live chat, want to welcome everybody in. If you haven't done so already, why haven't you? Make sure that you subscribe, turn on those bell notifications so that you can be notified every time we go live here on Sim Racing Media. Devil's Gamer thanking us for the work that we do, and looks like he's cheering on the 85 car. Static Speed Shop cheering on the Grease Monkey Motorsports. Ron Fitting and Chris in the 66 and Andrew in the 38. Uncle Scott Minto is cheering on Brandon Minto out of Norman, Oklahoma. Dcash Videos, which of course is Alexander Gangler. Looks like he might have been involved in that earlier caution, as he seems to have gotten spun. And then Lauren Bright cheering on Brock, which of course refers to Brock here in the 63, and it looks like Brockton Packard has slid all the way back to 14th position. So for lack of a better term, with now 5 laps to go, he's kind of out of contention for some stage points here at the end of stage number 1. Michael Astuto right now would be on the cut line for that, as Charles Eaton runs in 6th position. and Nick Hansen in fourth. Mike Wright, though, now he's doing Mike Wright things. 3.6 seconds ahead of Bennett Allen. I mean, just absolutely crazy. And, of course, his teammate Brandon Minto up here in seventh. Of course, we just heard from Uncle Scott in the YouTube.com live chat. And, you know, it's interesting, Chris, for the last 2 years we've heard about Uncle Scott. And a couple of weeks ago in the live chat, we finally got to see Uncle Scott make an appearance, and I could not be happier.
I'm sorry, the cars were whizzing by. You said, what about Uncle Scott?
Uncle Scott is, of course, the uncle of Brandon Minto out of Norman, Oklahoma. Right. And, you know, Brandon always makes sure every time I talk to him post-race, you know, hey, listen, I want to thank my Uncle Scott, you know, tipping back the Miller Lights. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I enjoy a good libation during the race, but these guys really go at it hard, and Brandon is so dominant. And all of a sudden, Uncle Scott starts showing up in the YouTube.com live chat, and to me, that's exciting to finally get to cross paths with somebody who we hear about, but we never get to actually talk to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And from what I can tell, he shows up quite a bit, and I think that's fantastic. That's another way that we're going to be able to grow the broadcast. Just like we grow the league, you know, we want people to invite their families and their friends to join in on these broadcasts we have, with to share the links and to really look at something that's quite unique. You know, in the world, there's a lot of people that aren't even aware that we have sim racing like this or podcasts, and it's really funny how similar that the real broadcast can be to the simulated broadcast from time to time. And I look at the standings. Looks like we've hit the end of the first stage.
Yep, stage one in the books here, as we might have thrown it a little early, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Oh no, Keith Black crashed. I'm not sure if this is related, but that's going to be the end of stage number one. Mike Wright captures the green and white checkered flag. He's followed by Bennett Allen, Sylvain Joly, Nick Hansen, Claude Ferlin, Brandon Minto, Ethan Ball, Kavaja Holt, Michael Astuto, and Nolan Hodgson. All those drivers will be awarded bonus points here. Is it does look like maybe something happened with Keith Black. We're going to take a quick peek here at the replay screen. Oh my!
It was ahead of him.
It was ahead of him, and
like
then
46.
something happened. I'm just going to run this back here, folks, because of course it happens so quickly. Looks like this might have started with the 46 of Bryson Alexander, as Alexander was coming out of turn number 4. We see him wash up. Oh, he washed up right in front of Bawalda. That's not going to make Bawalda very happy camper, but he just got tight at the wrong moment. And, you know, I talk about it all the time as we're going to have some wholesale pit stops here. I talk about it all the time where, you know, there are certain drivers where it's incredibly frustrating when they work as hard as they do on the setups and then, you know, come in here on a Monday night and get wrecked out, you know, of course, here at stage one. Now, that didn't look too bad for Bawalda, but Mike Wright, our stage one winner. Chris, we're going to get a chance to talk to him here.
Absolutely.
There we go. Hey, Mike, it's Dave and Chris. You got us?
Happy.
Well, here you are doing Mike Wright things. You know, I guess I kind of jerkishly tried to explain to the fans at home that the 63 looked like he was going to try to give you a run for your money, and nobody seemed to warn him that this is a Mike Wright style track.
You know, I could tell early that even on the first few laps when he was running some pretty good lap time, the car was all over the place. So there's no way you can keep that up for 10, 15, 20 laps, and I know he dropped back quite a bit. So hopefully he'll figure out a little bit of how to pace the tires. Yeah, I mean, it's about to be expected. Lots of tire wear, and you're going to have to drive lap 20 different than lap 30 and lap 40. And if we go green in that last stage, it's going to be a handful.
You know, we had.
I think you're probably going to have a lot of guys that are going to try that strategy and to try to get out in front and maybe use up a little bit more than they should. And if this were a race where we had lots of cautions that could possibly pay off for them, but these longer green flag runs.
And even with the tire wear, just the way that the corners are different, it's still tough to make a pass. Because, you know, I feel like you can get a pretty good run off of 2 on a lot of people, but because they can hold throttle on the outside of turn 3 and 4, it just takes a while to work through and make the pass anyways. So there's still a benefit for running harder than maybe you would like to keep some track position, but at some point you got to make the flip of the switch and say, all right, I know I got to go 30, 40 more laps and just take care of it. Because after we had that caution and we got back going, my right front was definitely a lot tighter than I was hoping, and having to pass him on the bottom for several laps didn't help, but just the cycling of the tires doesn't help either. So you never know. Balances changes during the race.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, listen, we appreciate your time. As I did happen to notice that track temperature has jumped up to 118. It was much cooler during practice, so looks like maybe you're going to be slip sliding around for a little while. That's going to make for some exciting racing. Good luck the rest of the way, and I'm sure that we're going to see you here on the other side.
Yeah, we'll keep it rolling. Have a good one.
All right, we're going to move him on back up here to the Ferda Motorsports stable. You know, Chris, Mike is one of those drivers where I feel like I've gotten to know him just because he is so good in this league, where I feel like I'm always interviewing him. And if you know, I talk about you being Mr. Consistency, but he has never wavered in his vocal tone. You know, he never sounds stressed. He never sounds bothered. He's just right here on the level, right, you know, same every week.
If I could run like Mike could, I wouldn't be having much stress either. So,
That's fair.
I don't know how he does it, but he just...
There must be something in the water in Greensboro.
Yeah, there has to be. I mean, yeah, he's right in the heart of NASCAR. I'm sure, and to be as successful as he has, to win as many races, and to never make enemies of anyone. He races everyone just as clean as he possibly can. So I don't know. I wish that people could take a lot of pointers from the way that he goes about his business.
Yeah, 49 laps in the books so far tonight as we move right behind that hotel that's right here on the edge of turn 1. The iRacing.com pace car lights are out, so we'll be getting ready to go back green flag racing. So far, a great race tonight as Mike Wright going to be sitting in control of the field once again. Bennett Allen going to be restarting in P2. Nick Hansen in third. Sylvain Jolie, Claude Ferlin, Brandon Minto, Gavaja Holt, Ethan Ball, Michael Witt, and Michael Astudo going to round out your top 10. As Mike Wright brings us through turn number 4, the iRacing.com pace car peels down pit road. As Bennett Allen sits alongside Mike Wright, we can see Wright just here to the inside. He drops the hammer, and I'll tell you what, Bennett nearly caught himself a penalty here on the restart.
Yeah. Let's hope he did. That was close. I know that he wanted to get a good jump, but...
I'm going to quick take a peek at this in the replay screen because I'll tell you, I almost never see anything that close, especially out of Bennett. And we can see just as they get into the restart zone, oh, so close.
Oh.
Bennett could not have been any closer.
Yeah, I think that he's clean.
That was definitely clean. But
that was, yeah. I think he hurt himself, though, by having to recoil like he did. He actually wound up not getting as good a start as if he had just, oh no.
As we go under caution here.
He may get another shot at it, looks like.
Well, and we talked about it earlier, you know, Michael Danks was going to have himself a rough night as we saw him go off track a few times. Oh, he washes up right in front of the 78.
Yep.
Now I just got to find who, there we go, Mike Pratchik here. As we're going to go along and ride along with Michael Pratchik on this replay. We're going to look just to the left here. We're going to see Danks just literally wash up into him. Here he goes right across his nose.
I think Mike could have done there. I mean, that's just right across your nose.
Yeah, he said the warning shot was supposed to go across her nose, not up it.
Mike was saying, not clear, not clear.
Well, at least he was paying attention.
Yeah.
You know, I think that has to be the most helpless feeling you have when you've got both feet on the brake and, you know, the wheel is just twisting back and forth and you're waiting for the car to come to a blissful rest.
All right.
But this is something that I didn't see a whole lot of last night. That I guess last night kind of lulled me into a false sense of security. The cold tires on the hot asphalt are just a recipe for disaster early on in a run. And
well, let's keep in mind, as you said, the track temp was up to 118 and probably rising. Could be. So I think they're probably experiencing some conditions that they haven't had the first portion of this race. So it may be a little dicey here until they get their tires underneath them a little bit better.
Yeah, 1:07 p.m. in sim time. So it's only going to get hotter from here. It may cool down about midway through stage 3, but for right now, these drivers are going to be fighting, liquefying temperatures of asphalt. That's for sure.
If it's anything like Tennessee, it's going to be this and the next hour and a half is going to be about the hottest part of the day.
Yeah, you don't think that it's again a false sense of security. I did it last October going to Miami, and earlier this spring going to Clearwater, where I get on the plane and I think, I need a hoodie. It's a little chilly here in the Northeast, and then you get off and you're thinking, holy crap, I overdressed.
Yeah.
These drivers, here it is April in the Northeast, and you're sitting here in the sim and you're thinking, it's not that bad. It's not that bad out your real window, but out your sim window, it's toasty.
Let's just be glad that they don't run this race in July or August, where the tires just liquefy around after about 5 laps.
Yeah, it would just look like black oil around the racetrack. That just sent a chill up my spine. Second caution for cause tonight. Dave Regal and Chris Claude with you here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast booth, as Chris making a special appearance this week, as unfortunately last week, for the first time in what I think is, in all these years, you wound up having to serve your own penalty, and because you wound up with 2 at faults last week. That's got to be frustrating, especially for somebody like you who prides yourself on being such a safe and good driver.
Well, especially, it wasn't just 2 at faults. I could deal with that, and that would not have gained a suspension. It was 2 self-spins that actually gained a suspension. So it was nobody's fault. Nobody was around. Just lost it on my own, and apparently hit the same banana peel, the same little strip of sealant or whatever you were talking about last week at Martinsville, and it was only in the Xfinity car that it affected me. I don't know what it was. Just I had no problem in the Cup car or the trucks, but at any rate, it kind of taught me a lesson that if I have a self-spin, there's a good chance that you may not see me on the track after that, because I'm not going to take a chance on that happening again.
I mean, look, it obviously happens to the best of us. I mean, I've seen you out here on the racetrack for a number of years, and some of that, I'm looking to see if I know that Texas has one of these, and here it is. Right here in the middle of the racetrack, you can see this crack, and you have to remember, these tracks are laser scanned, folks. So as they're coming around, getting themselves racked and stacked to go double file, we can take a look. This whole section here, right in the middle of your screen, is like a giant crack with nothing but tar to fill that in. And during a race, it turns to almost like a banana peel, like Chris said. And it just loosens the car up, something so gross and awful that I think literally what we're looking at right here, Chris, is kind of what, got the best of you last week.
Exactly. You're talking about going from a surface that has grip to a small section that doesn't, and it's the banana peel effect. And I just happened to hit it at the wrong place at the wrong time, 2 different times, and that was it. But that's really cool to show the people that may not understand just how intricately these tracks are built in iRacing. They literally go to the track, they laser scan them, and every little indentation, seam is captured just like it is in real life. And that's just remarkable, the amount of time that they spend doing that on all these tracks they have on the service.
Well, and it's something that I didn't get involved with until, I started building some of these camera packs. And, as I was setting the camera into place, I thought, I want to kind of see what everything looks like, because it's like when you're sitting in traffic on a highway that, maybe you drive every day. As Mike Wright comes into the Geico restart zone, much more organized this time as Bennett lets him get the jump as we go back green flag racing. But, for those of us that drive to work on the same route every day, if there happens to be some kind of a traffic jam, and all of a sudden you're sitting at a dead stop, you see things sitting on the road that you go, huh, I never noticed that before. Because, of course, usually you're traveling at, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour going up the road.
Right.
So when you take the time to smell the roses, you can see those little imperfections in the asphalt, like here at Texas, where, right now as we go down through here, I'm going to pull the dashboard up of Bennett Allen, 184, 85, 6, 7, 8, 187 into the turn. He doesn't have time to look at all of those little details, but it does show that iRacing is worth every penny that we pay for it.
Yeah, it reminds me of I don't know why this stuck in my head. It reminds me of a Cheers episode that they had several years ago where they had Kevin McHale, and they were trying to figure out how many rivets or whatever they had at the Boston Garden, and he got so, I guess, crazy about it, trying to figure it out. He was like showing him during the game, and he kept looking down at the floor, and he was actually counting them as the floor, and he wound up having a horrible game because of it. So, yeah, I can just imagine, somebody like Bennett or Mike, 182 miles around here, I'm not paying attention to anything, but I'm just trying to see the seam that's in the middle of the track.
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is that little edge of the tire to catch that, and it sends you a spinning. I mean, wow, Bennett just got real wide going here into one. I think Bennett's probably going to be the driver that I pay closest attention to because he's hitting these turns almost as perfect as Mike Wright as we ride along with Bennett Allen down the back chute. You can see the shadow that's been worn into the track over the years, and he's actually a little lower, and we can see Mike Wright ahead of him just taking the entry into turn 3 a little bit wider. And that shadow that's worn into the racetrack, that's definitely the expert shadow. We can see a couple different grooves here coming into turns 1 and 2. As Bennett is hovering right over top of the seam, he slides out of 2 and down the back chute. It looks like Mike is doing just a little bit better of a job on entry here, and now Bennett's going to try something different.
He's searching for clean air. He's probably in a wake of dirty air right now, and it's upsetting his car. That's the only thing I can figure out. And he's going to try whatever he needs to do to be able to gain time on bike. He's not just going to get settled into one position and just stick with it. He's going to do whatever he has to do to start gaining time, or not trying, or use the tires up one.
Side by side goes Michael Astuto and Sam Bolin, and now Astuto comes out with the edge over top of Bolin. We look just slightly further back here, and we can see outside pole sitter Brockton Packard working the inside now of the 61. That's Zachary Vaughn. As Vaughn just had a moment where he rubbed the wall. Nothing crazy, though. They're chasing down Alex Princeton, and, Alex tonight kind of crawling his way quietly through the field. This is something that we see from Alex week after week, where, all of a sudden you look up and you think, oh, how did he get here into 13th position? This is exactly what I was talking about earlier on. As we slide back even further, Rich Jett in the double natural up 21 spots after starting dead last in 38. Has that Tampa Bay Rays Chevrolet Camaro now running in 16th, up 22. So Rich Jett, our biggest mover of the night, plus 22 on timing and scoring. We take a look at Brad Gunn in the 91, and Brad kind of uncharacteristically running deep in the field. He started 29th position. These drivers so far here on lap number 63 have really managed to keep things together. Just 3 cautions for cause overall. I think that's something to be proud of, especially, here in these Xfinity cars that have so much torque at the rear end.
When I heard we were looking at Rich just a second ago, and I saw him finishing or starting shotgun, it's like he will wind up working his way into the top 10 before the end of this race. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There's just certain guys, you saw, you showed Alex before, which he's kind of like me on steroids. He's able to go up there, and whatever I can get, he's going to be able to get probably 5 or 10 positions better than what I can get. And I really like the way that he goes about his business and isn't necessarily always concerned about where he qualifies at. But looks like sounds like we've got some people pitting. I just heard the call in from 16, I think.
Yeah, 16 of Zach Osborne coming in early. We're definitely not even close to, well, I shouldn't say not even close, but we're about 25 laps away from the stage break. So maybe he's deciding that he's going to try to stagger and cycle himself back up to the front when we come back around. So far, it's just Osborne. Bryson Alexander getting repairs done here since lap number 60. And Osborne going to come in. I don't see this thing popping up. What's he doing? He may have something going on at home because I don't see anything.
Yeah, it could be a mechanical issue also. You never know. These, just like I had my tire issue last night. Anything can pop. I heard a story of one of the guys, I think it may have been in the Xfinity series, but his cool suit or fan or something, he lost the power to it. And so basically he was having to sit in the car. It was over 120 degrees inside the car the entire race.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but his cool suit had given up. And I mean, again, it's something that we take for granted in iRacing because, if you're a little warm in the house, you just turn the air conditioning down another degree or two. Where these drivers are in vehicles that are traveling at almost 190 miles per hour. And then, of course, you get to the point where it's 130 degrees inside the car. So, for all intents and purposes, they say, oh, it's not. I think Adam Alexander said, well, it's not a long race. And Joey Logano was like, it might not be a long race, but it's a hot race.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they were quite expecting for it to be that warm. It had it'd been cool the past couple of weeks, and it just happened to hit a really hot stretch right as they were going into Texas for the Xfinity and the Cup races.
Zach Osborne winds up going down a lap here as we're talking about heat and temperature. Outside air temperature is 80 degrees. On the asphalt is 121. So the asphalt just jumped up 3 degrees since the beginning of stage 2. We're 21 laps from the end. It's going to be 20 laps this time by. And, I look at this, and of course it's nice and comfortable here in the broadcast booth. It's at the same time, these drivers are down there sweating, and I know some of them, they wear gloves while they race, or they might be wearing wrestling shoes or racing shoes to keep their feet on the pedals. What do you do to keep yourself, I know what I did, back in the day to keep comfortable. What do you do to keep yourself comfortable as you boogie around racetracks like this?
I certainly don't have an elaborate setup or anything like that. I have a comfortable chair that I'm in, and I will have to say that I'm probably in the warmest room in the house, in the bonus room where I race, and it can get a little warm with afternoon sun hitting it. Some of these conditions, as far as the heat, I can relate to. It's certainly not 120 degrees, but it can feel like it's maybe 80 or 85 if it's if it's at a time of the year where the air is not kicking on that much, and the sun's still hitting the room in the afternoon. And plus, as you know, when you get in your racing, even if you have the air going, you're still generating a lot of body heat and everything just from the tensing up and the driving. You wouldn't think that it would be, but just even playing just a regular video game, people tend to, their body heat and everything goes up when they're doing that if it's a heavy competition.
Yeah, I know my old racing rig sat right underneath the air conditioning vent. So during our summer months where, of course, it's already warm, there I'd be with the computer next to me and it's pushing out just enough heat to make you uncomfortable. That air conditioning vent would turn on and it was like a gift from the gods. And in my old studio before, moving last year, back in July, I was literally in a walk-in closet. It was a big closet, but, with that computer, 3 monitors, and the equipment that I used to broadcast with, I would wind up walking out at the end of the night and just be dripping in sweat, just from a broadcast alone.
Yeah. And that shows just, and maybe it's just the feeling to just watching the races and knowing what it takes to go in get around these tracks in a simulator. You're, living vicariously through some of the drivers out there, and just any type of activity like this. I mean, it takes a lot of work as I'm finding out to even be able to just sit and do the broadcasting, and because there's a lot to keep up with, and you're trying to make sure that you don't miss anything. And I know that it's good to be able to follow along with your broadcasts and still have the ability to go and look at something individually on my own screen and get another viewpoint possibly of it, because I know some of the views that you don't like to use, that's what I have to use in order to be able to look at some of these at faults that people have during the races. Is the far chase views usually used to do that. Hopefully it doesn't look like I'm going to have to use it very much tonight if things go the way that they are, but at races like Martinsville, I thought my fingers were going to fall off going through every one of the cautions that we had.
Yeah, while we were talking just now, Ethan Ball slides around Nick Hansen, securing away 5th position. You talk about having to look back at certain things, at faults and whatnot, and I remember back in the day when we had real race review, and we would have, after every event, have to kind of sit around and have a powwow to discuss everything that happened in that race. And in some of these races, it felt like we had to relive every lap because something was going on. And all of a sudden now, this league has really come to life as far as keeping it clean and getting around these racetracks. As Sam Bolin blinks in and out here just behind Brockton Packard, 78 laps in the books. We're going to step aside for a quick break here on Sim Racing Media. I'm Dave Regal. He is Chris Claude, and this is Monday Night NASCAR.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. Dave Regal and Chris Claude in the Tony Trapasso Memorial Broadcast Booth. You're watching the Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series 300 here from Texas Motor Speedway, mile and a half here just outside of Fort Worth. Chris, we have been watching some great racing all night long, and as I was just saying, you're an absolute natural, like a glove fits here in the MNN Xfinity Series booth.
I appreciate that, Dave. It's not something that I'm expecting to be doing that often, but it's certainly a nice change of pace. And as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it's really informative to be able to see this from another perspective other than driving, and maybe be able to pick up a couple of things watching how these guys think around, maybe some of the pitfalls they have, not making the same mistakes, because I may not be on the race tonight, but I will be on the race tomorrow, so there is still another race that we have at Texas that maybe I can learn a thing or two from watching them.
Well, speaking of learning a thing or two, all of a sudden, Alex Prince and Rich Jett just found an extra gear to get around Richard Pruitt. I mean, Alex Prince just had a crazy run getting into turn 2 and managed to boogie around Richard Pruitt. He comes out of turn number 4, crossing the start-finish line here on 84. And, you know, the 6 laps this time by that remain in stage 2, these drivers have managed to keep it pretty clean, you know, all things considered. I keep watching, and we've talked about it. It was part of the discussion last night for most of the evening. Of course, the Cup Series starts slightly later in the day, so the racetrack actually cools down. But what we're watching right now is the racetrack heating up. We're up to 122 degrees, and these drivers have taken those changing track conditions and taken them in stride. As we watch John Wilco from McAdoo, Pennsylvania, in that Detroit Tigers paint scheme here in his Chevrolet Camaro, getting ready to work just underneath Rich Jett, as it looks like the Tigers and Rays are going to be going here for at least a 3-lap series here in Texas.
That's a good one. Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that the 2 cars that you're showing are slowly but surely making their way up to the front, and it's only the second stage, and I expect that they're going to continue to work their way up to the front. Most likely both of them be inside the top 10 before we finish this piece off.
Speaking of baseball scores, looks like the Phillies pulled one out against the Rockies at home here in South Philadelphia. I forgot that they had the early start during the week. I don't know if it's something that you've noticed, and I'm not trying to shift gears too hard as we're on 87, but you know, something that I've noticed is that baseball teams are now starting those weeknight games during the school year just slightly earlier. You know, that way the kids can get to bed. I mean, I used to like the West Coast swing when I was in school because that was the night that I was allowed to stay up late. But you know, it's actually kind of nice when you look. A 10-inning game gets over at 9:30 at night.
Yeah, and I've always been a purist about most things. But I will have to say that I am in favor of the rule change they made several years ago with the runner on second base and the extra innings, just so the games don't go into 17, 18, 19 innings. I mean, it's just way too long. Along with the pitch clock, I think that they've really found a good recipe for making baseball a lot more accessible to more fans. And I think that there's probably some numbers that will support that there's people coming back to the sport that may have been a little thrown a little tired of it, or maybe they were upset the strike, lockout, whatever you want to call it.
And I mean,
they're doing the right things.
Yeah, they did. And at first, I was absolutely against the pitch clock because baseball is a timeless sport, as the purist like you and I would believe. But I saw it at the minor league level, and I thought, okay, I can get in and out of the ballpark in like 2.5 hours and still see a great game. And, you know, some pitchers, they did spend way too much time, you know, adjust the cup, check the belt, you know, rub the hat, scratch your butt. It's like throw the ball. Just throw the ball. As we watch, speaking of throwing the ball, Mike Wright has been pitching strikes all night long. He's got a 3.7 second lead over Sylvain Joly, 3.67 to be precise, as he hauls it out of turn 4 on lap number 90. Looks like he is going to capture the green and white checkered flag with relative ease. Side by side, though, are Sylvain Joly and Ethan Ball, as Ball going to hold off Joly coming to the line here at the end of stage number 2. We look further back, and it looks like Brockton Packard is going to round out your top 10. He'll pick up a bonus point here as the caution flag flies, and stage 2 is in the books.
So do you think that Mike had this track circled for a while? I think he's been waiting for these tracks, just licking his chops for some tracks where you have to actually use your tires.
If he didn't have this track circled, he has every 1.5 miles circled.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get... Oh, I'm going to pull Brandon down. We're going to get a hold of Mike right here. Hey, Mike, it's Dave and Chris up again here in the booth. You got us?
I do.
Well, stage 2 in the books. Chris, you know, you were just talking about this, you know, having this track circled.
Backstretch. Sorry about that. I had to call out something.
That's all right. Chris was just saying that you had this track circled. What do you think?
I don't want to be that guy, but I don't like it. I honestly do not like Texas. But there's a difference in enjoying it and being able to get something done with the car. So It's interesting. I mean, there's a changeover that happens about 20 to 25 laps in that hits everybody, and it's just how much does it hit you? And Mike and Brandon were telling me there's another cycle that hits about 35 or 40 into the run that seems to affect people too. So it's pretty interesting how there's some different stages of when the cars drop off.
Yeah, it's interesting here, especially to see somebody like you who usually, just gobbles up the mile and a half. Chris and I know that we've talked about it before. How comes it seems like you guys that quote unquote hate a particular track, that seems to be where all of a sudden you just crank up to crazy and wind up, dominating?
I think, a lot of times if you don't like it, there's two options. You can practice more, which is what I tend to do, try to make myself better at it, and or you could avoid it. So obviously if you put some time in, you're probably going to hang a little bit better, which is always nice, and you make yourself better. So even though you don't like it still, you can get better at what you're doing. So that's life anyways, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we're watching everybody coming off a pit road. Looks like you won the battle. You've got Sylvain and Ethan behind you, so you come out pretty much the same way that you went in. What's going to be the strategy now with about 110 laps left to go in this piece?
If it went green, I think there could be some two-stop opportunities if you're towards the front. I was running 2 1/4 off the fast pace by the end of that run, so it's about 43 to 46 seconds, I think, to make the green flag pit stop. So if you could make time and catch cars and pass them, it might net out pretty well. So that could be an option. Obviously, the big key of that is it's got to go green, or you got to get the caution once you get the lap back. So that could be interesting. You don't see that at most places. Unfortunately, you don't really get to see that in real life because they had so many cautions in the real life races the last couple of years at Texas. So you don't really know what they would have done in real life either. So you'll be curious to see if everybody changes up anything or everybody just runs as long as they can in pits, and it's going to be a long run.
Mike, were you a little bit surprised that no one decided to come in and pit earlier so that they could get track position at the beginning of the stage?
I think everybody, at least by what I'm seeing around me and what they're talking about behind me, is everybody's doing a good job, it seems like, learning and adjusting to say, okay, I can't drive that hard at the front end of the run. And I think because they're working on making the long run better, they're just running it straight up, which is probably why you're seeing more green flag running at the moment. So hopefully that keeps going. The next stage, if everybody keeps learning what their car did, and even if they don't make a change, if they just learn, okay, well, that was a little bit harder than the first run and I heard it, or I did better that run, I'll do that again. You'll notice more and more people, like the 08 here, he popped up at the end of the run, and I think he was well at maintaining pace.
Could you tell a significant difference once the track temperature rose that last stage, and how you were having to, what was the biggest adjustment that you had to make around the track with the track temp being higher?
I'm surprised, turn ones seems to be getting tighter on entry than I remembered in some of the official practice stuff, which is the same temperature almost. But as the temperature has risen more and more, I can tell that I personally am getting more loose in the 3 and 4, and I feel like I'm just in a four-wheel drift towards the end of the run if I'm not careful. So you got to tiptoe it. And it doesn't seem like changes, like if you're going to try to tighten it up in 3 and 4, it does very little, but it just makes you too tight in 1. So that's the nature of Texas with the two different ends. You can't really be happy in both ends. You gotta do what you can to maintain in one end and really hit it on the other side.
All right, Mike. Well, listen, good luck, as it looks like everybody's double file as you go down the backstretch. Good luck here in stage 3. And I'm literally almost positive that we're going to see you here on the other side.
I like to think if I keep the car clean, we'll at least be talking somewhere.
Well, keeping the car clean is half the battle, Chris, as you and I know. And I mean, it's one of those things where, as I'm okay, now the screen has to calm down here as we move him back on up into Ferda. Keeping the car clean is half the battle at a racetrack like this, as the iRacing.com pace car hauls it down pit road in just a few moments here. it's going to be Sylvain Joly alongside of Mike as we get ready to restart. And I want to take a look at this from Sylvain's point of view as the iRacing.com pace car peels down pit road. We see Mike right here get into the Geico restart zone. He drops the hammer, and we are back underway. Stage number 3, ready to rock.
Sylvain definitely he played a lot more straight up than what we saw with Bennett a while back, and trying to guess when he was going and recoiling. I don't know. It's tough with the restart zone in iRacing to be able to get a good jump. And they do it for a reason, but I definitely can attest that the few times that I've been up towards the front, and especially in second place, trying to get that good restart is near impossible without getting penalized.
Yeah, during my final weeks as a driver, I wound up trying to test a little bit in the restart zone just because I was curious. I mean, I never rode close enough to the front to even be, have that be a factor, but it does definitely, deepen the sim, because of course it happens in real life, so it might as well happen here on iRacing.com. And iRacing does such a good job of building in the real life into the sim. And I think a lot of that creativity and a lot of that innovation comes from the mind of Dale Earnhardt Jr. I think that the addition to him as one of the executive directors at iRacing definitely helped the service. I mean, just in the last year alone, we've seen some incredible improvements, such as rain now getting ready to come to iRacing. I mean, I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon here, in the league races, but it's still pretty interesting.
It is, definitely is. I've run a couple of races in the rain in iRacing on some of these sports cars on the road course tracks, and looks very realistic. The cars handle much differently as you would expect, and I think the sooner that we can get up in our races, the sooner that you'll see some races in the rain at the road courses and some of the short tracks that they allow the rain tires to run on. And with regards to Dale, I mean, he is about the best ambassador that you could have from NASCAR to come into iRacing and to be able to implement and become that partner that hopefully will remain for a long, long time to come. I know that the Indy Series, I think they took a 1-year hiatus, and we lost the official Indy 500 race last year. I believe that they're back this year officially. And with regards to some of the enhancements and trying to stay true to racing, they do a really good job at it. I think the only thing, probably the biggest thing that stands out to me that they do in the real races that they don't have in iRacing is the choose cone rule. And for those that aren't familiar with the choose cone rule, it allows the drivers, before they go 1 to green, to pick either the inside or the outside lane, regardless of where they would be placed. And you can gain spots by maybe taking a less desirable lane and gain some track position that way. I do know that it's probably something that is real difficult for them to code. I would imagine is one of the reasons they haven't put it into place yet. And we actually did have it in place for about half a season 1 year, and we were just having to clear too many penalties in order to make it work, that it just became too much of a nightmare. But I would like to see that at some point, and if it works and it doesn't cause problems, we will absolutely put it in the league to have in our races.
Yeah, you talk about Dale Jr. being, an ambassador. First of all, I realize that he's, of course, the son of one of the greatest drivers to ever sit behind the wheel. But not only that, he is a fan, and to me, he's more like a caretaker of the history of this sport. And I got a chance to almost cross paths with him down in Miami. John Leach and I from Sim Racing Media, we've got a slow car up here. I can't see who that is, but they're...
I think he's holding it high. As long as he holds it high and keeps going, we should stay green. I don't know how bad he's injured.
It looks like it's not good, and that's going to bring out the caution as he slides across the racetrack. I'm going to run this back here and see what happened with Minto, because it's got to be something mechanical here, as we're going to ride along from the nose of Brandon Minto right now. here we go, coming out of turn 2, down the back stretch. I'm listening to the engine.
The top down, or do you,
It may have been a tire, but he
that's
just got
awful
stuck
early in
up
the run.
against the wall.
If he got new tires, that's awful early for a tire to go down.
I mean, unless he had some kind of a mechanical failure with hardware, he
Yeah,
almost
that's
made it
almost
off the race.
The way that it came down afterwards makes me think that something may have happened with his wheel. He couldn't steer anymore.
Yeah, because he just kind of got stuck up there.
Yeah.
And then here he is coming off the wall at the end of this. Of course, teammate of Mike Wright, our race leader. I don't think this was orchestrated by any stretch. You know, it's almost, if we look right here, you can see, and I'm just going to pause this, we're going to zoom in here. I think it might be the case of a tire going down to some degree, because you can see right here how the car is leaned out to the right as hard as it is, and that left side is still at a normal race height. So he may have cut a tire down somehow.
Yeah, that's really unusual for Brandon, for him to have something like that happen. But you know, if it's a tire, if it's something mechanical, then it's out of his hands, and it could happen to anybody.
Without a doubt. And as I was saying, so, you know, John and I were on pit road for the beginning of the Xfinity race down in Miami. And you have to understand, I grew up a Dale Jr. fan. So I was going to do anything I possibly could to get as close to him as I could to have him sign something. And if he would have signed my skin, I would have finally broke down and gotten myself a tattoo. I think I really would have been hard-pressed not to get a tattoo of that. But anyway...
Right.
So we were working our way down pit road. We didn't have passes for the Xfinity series to be on pit road, but we thought, screw it, this is the only time in life that we might have this opportunity. So, you know, we kind of knife our way through, get through the crowd. I was the second to next person to get him to sign something, and you know, the PR guy said, okay, everybody, you know, that's enough. You know, he's got to, because of course they were coming back from commercial break to have the pre-race invocation and the national anthem. And this guy reaches out in front of me, and he holds out this dirty old Wrangler blue and gold hat. And he says, hey, Dale, this is my daily. And Dale kind of pushes the PR guy to the side, and he grabs a pen, and he says, give me that hat. And you know, the look on his face said, this sparks a memory within me that makes me feel, you know, all warm and fuzzy to some degree. You could tell just the countenance on his face changed as soon as he saw this blue and gold Wrangler hat. And
right.
To me, that's a guy who's a fan that is still, you know, in the highest of echelons in our sport, that never forgets where he came from, and that was, you know, sitting on top of the pit box cheering dear old dad on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it had to bring back some really good memories for him, and I'm sure that things like that happen to him all the time with as many fans as his dad had, and then he had probably from his dad after that.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, for me, I mean, the story goes, my first race that I ever watched from flag to flag was at the fire company in the social quarters at our fire company, and I was sitting alongside of a guy that we called Gino, and I watched flag to flag February 18th, 2001. And, you know, of course, at the end, we tragically lost Dale Earnhardt. And at that time, I didn't understand the significance because I was, you know, I don't know, 11 at that point. So it didn't really click with me. Maybe I was 12. But it didn't really click with me until I started to get deeper into NASCAR. And, of course, I started following Dale Earnhardt Jr. because back then Gillette had the young guns. And it was Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, and I think Matt Kenseth was part of that, if I remember correctly. And they made this whole class of drivers the cool kids on the racetrack.
Right. If you weren't a Gordon fan, then you were probably a fan of one of the young guns.
Oh, yeah. You know, and Jeff Gordon is an incredible bridge between, you know, that mid-'90s, you know, NASCAR culture and, you know, the juggernaut that it became in the early 2000s. And, a lot of that credit goes to Fox Sports. I think they do a fabulous job over there at Fox Sports, producing the races that we have, whether it's on FS1 or Fox proper. But and NBC doesn't do a bad job either, but Fox just brought a different flavor to racing for my money.
Yeah, I think they did for a lot of different programming. Regardless, football, baseball, just their programming, the shows in general were kind of pioneering it in a way and geared more towards a younger audience. And I think that's good for any growing sport, even a sport that was at one time, with NASCAR being one of the most popular sports in the country. And, there's been somewhat of a decline. People call rules changes, people call playoff format. But I think there has been a bit of a resurgence. And I think it's good for racing. I'm all for.
We go almost immediately back under caution here.
Wow.
And I think you're right. At one time it felt like NASCAR was the most popular sport, in the country, and I can't contest that at all. Mike Wright was buried pretty far back here, but then Sylvain Joly is recorded as being off track. This might have originally been a checkup, maybe from the 15.
Yeah, we got a bad bump that looked like a turn Claude Ferlin into Sylvain.
We're going to take a peek here and see what may have happened.
That's exent lid on exent lid.
Yep. It was the 01 that checked up in front of the 15 and the 63, and that just sent kind of the pinball effect behind. Oy. Well, that's going to make some angry drivers on the next restart. And while they get themselves racked and restacked and ready to do it all over again, Richard Pruitt, your race leader, we're going to step aside and pay some bills here on Sim Racing Media. I'm Dave Regal. He's Chris Claude. And this is Monday Night NASCAR.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $400,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Preen Garden Weed Preventer and Preen Garden Weed Preventer Plus Plant Food block weeds before they start and are safe for use around over 400 flowers, vegetables, trees, and shrubs. Best of all, they give you 3 months of freedom from weeding in just 4 easy steps. You can apply Preen anytime before or during the growing season. But since it's a weed preventer, not a weed killer, early spring is best. Here's how. Start by removing existing weeds and their roots in the area where you want to apply Preen. Sprinkle granules directly onto dry soil, mulch, or stone so that they're evenly spaced. Within 24 hours of applying, integrate the granules into the top layer of soil or mulch or stone-covered bed. Finally, water with a hose or sprinkler, or a well-timed soaking rain to activate the protective weed barrier. When activated, Preen creates an invisible weed-fighting barrier just below the soil surface that targets and prevents weed seeds from sprouting and forming roots. People and pets may enter the treated area once dusts have settled and the area is thoroughly dry from watering or first rain. That's it. Now you'll have a beautiful weed-free space and 3 months to do anything but weeding. Satisfaction guaranteed. Trusted for over 50 years, Preen is America's #1 weed preventer brand with weed preventers for every type of garden.
basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force it off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Trish on the bottom. Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. We're on caution number 6. It's the 4th caution for cause all night long. The other 2, of course, were stage breaks. The iRacing.com pace car peels on down pit road. Richard Pruitt, with control of the field for a change here, takes the green flag, and we're back underway with, of course, a connection issue. Why not? It waited 114 laps for it to happen. Dave Regal and Chris Claude with you here in the broadcast booth. Come on, everybody, as we're going to go back under caution almost immediately. And now it says that you're Emily Arias. That's supposed to say Chris Claude. You don't look like Emily.
No.
Here on the replay, looks like Sylvain. Now that's showing the wrong one. That's not right. Here we go.
Yeah,
Michael.
that's the one for the prior one.
Well, it didn't update itself. Go figure. Claude Ferland involved this time. Zachary Vaughn involved. Here we go. And sometimes, there it is. Zachary Vaughn checked up, and it made the whole. All of a sudden, we were going to do the polka. Oh! All of a sudden, we did a polka, and it just turned into an accordion effect. And, you know, Chris, this is a good problem and a bad problem to have. You know, where here in this league, we've got 38 drivers tonight, and it's basically the witching hour for how many cars the graphics card can handle. Maybe for another tax write-off, it's time for another upgrade.
I don't know. It has to do something. I obviously don't notice that in my simulator, but then when you're running it through, you know, the software that you need to in order to generate the broadcast,
It's
has to be
something
to
that
do with
we've all
that.
experienced on SRM, where, you know, actually Frank Marchese and I, because we're the most anal retentive when it comes to broadcast quality. We were calling a race for ISNF and Rhea Ferris and that group there, and you know, it was at Daytona. It was a full field, and he was transmitting from San Diego, and he said, "Listen," he said, "just, you know, keep this thing, you know, fresh, just in case, you know, you need to take the baton and carry the broadcast." I said, "Okay." So he started flashing, you know, due to connection issues, because they wound up accidentally on a European server. And we don't know how they got on a European server, but they did. So he switched it over to me, and I had the same problems, and it looked like a strobe light all night long. It was probably our worst and most difficult broadcast to do together.
Yeah, I know the session itself, you can change from the session, there's a lot of different options that you can pick for the iRacing session, but I think that's going to depend on. I always use the same one, the default. So this must be something apart from what you're talking about with it being somewhere overseas.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me. I think about the overseas servers and things that we use on iRacing, and I mean, you know, you don't think of this as being you know, everybody thinks that this is just a regular video game, but I mean, sometimes the signal has to bounce out to a satellite, come to your computer, get rendered, of course, by a graphics card, sent back out to a satellite and rebroadcast it around the world. It's actually really cool, and you know, for those of us that are complete nerds, I understand the transatlantic data cable, and literally it's a cable that runs across the bottom of the ocean in the middle of the Atlantic. And I'm always fascinated that they installed that, you know, decades ago, and we're still using that same technology to send messages back and forth across the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an option. You know, I think that as we go forward, we'll probably see more things that are satellite based. I believe it's a lot easier to maintain. You launch another satellite. I can't imagine the amount of work involved in trying to maintain or repair or upgrade that transatlantic cable. Has to be. Then we've been trying to. Remember, there was a song a long time ago, but they were trying to come up with some sort of travel where you could travel in a tube underwater from the east coast of the United States to Europe. I forget what it was called, but
Yep, I remember. You know, and the thing is, you know, you look at this transatlantic. First off, I didn't think I'd be talking about the transatlantic cable tonight, but why not? Since we're here on caution number 7, and you know, you think about the amount of information that we send back and forth across the ocean, and there it is in a copper line that's inside of course, you know, waterproof tubing and everything else, and they literally just put this big reel on the back of a ship and, you know, sail across the ocean and drop it into the water. It's incredible when you think about how far we've come technology-wise to just, we'll launch another satellite, it'll handle all of this. And, you know, it's got to look pretty interesting from outer space. As speaking of space, we suddenly get that open space just in front of Richard Pruitt and Sam Bolin here on the front line. Pruitt gets a bump from Alex Princeton, and Princeton, here we go. He's now crawled his way up into 3rd position. Mike McConville in 7th. Mike Wright, our former race leader, running back in 9th position. I'm curious now that we've finally gotten underway here for more than the blink of an eye. I'm curious to see how long this run goes for, as Bennett Allen going to work the inside of Alexander Gangler in the 8 car. And Gangler does a heck of a job piloting the 8 around here, as Mike Wright now creeps in here on the rear bumper of Bennett Allen. We're going to go right on board here with Mike Wright. Of course, we've spoken to him tonight at the end of each of the first 2 stages, and this is the first time that we've seen him have to navigate traffic. And what this really does is it puts him, it makes him very vulnerable to anybody who makes a mistake around him, where bad things could happen. And, you know, after such a dominant performance earlier on in the evening, it could be very bad if Bennett Allen, you know, blinks the wrong direction.
Absolutely. I mean, you put yourself at risk, and I know you didn't do it on purpose, but you had some guys that took advantage and got the track position that they wanted. They were able to maintain the track position with the early caution that we had at the last 2 restarts. But I suspect, you know, if everyone holds together, Michael, he will take his time. He will not be impatient, and he has 80 laps to get up to the front. And I suspect that he will make his way there in the next 20 to 30 laps at the pace that he's probably going to be running at. He does as good a job as anyone at managing his tires, and I think he's proven that. He's able to get the lead and stretch it out once he is able to get up front. But the longer these guys can hold him back and make it difficult on him, the better chance that they're going to have on someone else making it to the front and winning this thing tonight.
Riding along here on the helmet cam of Alexander Gangler, as he is really fighting a tight race car. He's got to be able to back this up, and it's costing him precious time coming out of turn 2. I want to watch him come through turn 3 and 4 because a moment ago he was turning right just to keep it steering left. As he comes in here, watch that bump steer. Wow.
Yeah.
He has his hands full, for lack of a better term.
When your car gets that tight, and I don't know when the last time he came into pit, if you were able to pull it up or not, but he may be in for a long ride if this thing stays green. Because if it's already being that difficult to drive, it's not going to improve over time.
Now taking a look back here at Nick Hansen in the 99, he's going to have to do battle by holding off the 91 of Brad Gunn. Gunn has been pretty quiet so far tonight, while Richard Pruitt, your biggest mover of the race, suddenly is going to look here in the rear view and see Mike Wright just behind him. I think Pruitt may be wise to let his fellow statesman from North Carolina on by, and he does as Mike Wright gets ready to get the pipe out and be the Pied Piper of Texas once again, as he does the two-step right around Richard Pruitt. Mike Wright back to your race lead, hits the point, and I believe that was that Claude Ferlin here? Yep, there it is. Claude Ferlin kind of having the front nose clip ripped off the front of the 43, so he's obviously damaged and not a factor moving forward here in the race, as Mike Wright regains the race lead over Bennett Allen and Richard Pruitt. Brockton Packard is back for more, as it looks like he's finally gotten this car back underneath him. He last came down on lap 105 for pit service. We're going to look here at our pit strategy graphic. They've managed to break this last stage up here. Pruitt's the only driver in the top 3 to be holding it together with now 34 laps on those tires. Packard, Allen, and Wright all with 21 right now. So about 13 lap older tires for Pruitt. He's holding his own with Princeton, Bolin, and Witt running 5th, 6th, and 7th also with 34. So you can see a variety of different pit strategies here, Chris.
Yeah, I think it was a great move by Richard to make that move on the older tires. It certainly worked out for him in the short run with the quick cautions that we had. And even with a longer run, as long as he can be able to get into a groove and save as much as he can. If we wind up getting another caution here in the next 20 or 30 laps, he could be in a pretty good situation, because everybody's going to need to come in and pit at that point, and he's going to still be able to maintain that track position and be able to come out of here with the top 5 or better.
See, and that's always been your specialty. And just quick taking a peek here on the right-hand side of your screen, 123 degrees now, the track temperature, as Brockton Packard works his way around Pruitt. It's something that I've always, when you and I were teammates, I always had to kind of, pay attention to what you and Bob and Jeff were doing, because you guys were better at pit strategy than I was. I mean, it's easy for me to sit up here in the booth now and analyze pit strategy, but some of those decisions that you have to make are split second, and it's do I or don't I, do I or don't I, and next thing you know, you're just watching the bumper of the car in front of you to see whether or not they're going to make that left turn at the little 3 hash mark line.
Yeah, Jeff and Bob were in a different stratosphere than I was when it came down to that, to tire wear, to fuel mileage, all of that. I really relied on them, and I did learn a lot from them, but they are still the Jedi Masters when it comes to that. And certainly miss Bob, and love to see him back here at some point when he has the time. I don't know if his personal life has interfered too much, but if he can ever get that rig put together again, we'd love to have him back.
Yeah, there are some great names that are no longer with us here in this league, and Bob being one of them. I remember, first off, Bob brought me into this sport. I've told the story 100 times, kicking and screaming. And, then I send you a message, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to be part of this truck league. And, you had raced with Bob in another league once upon a time. And Next thing you know, it's, well, Bob will race in the Cup Series, but, Dave's coming along too. And next thing you know, I go from, I could race in this little truck league to, oh, I'm going to be here 3 nights a week. This is great. And, the rest suddenly became history when I realized I was just a fair to Midland driver, and the microphone is where I belong, not the steering wheel. In fact,
what we do is we suck people in. We get them to race in multiple series, and it makes it even easier to fill out the grid every week.
It really does. Oh
wow. Gosh, that was a big.
That's
big
a biggie.
Hit.
That was Matt Gaskins here. We're going to go right down to him. This kind of pulled up Brandon Minto for reasons I'm not quite sure of. Let's see what happened here. Watch Gaskins here in the 79, just ahead of Ron Fitting. It might have actually started with the 62 of McAdoo, Pennsylvania's very own John Wilco, as I'm going to try to find him here. This is the hardest part. I'm trying to do it and trying to talk all at the same time. As we see that, here it is. Now, Wilco is just behind the 91. And
oh, that's okay. Yeah,
that's hard left, and the rest is history. Boom went the proverbial dynamite. Now that's going to make things interesting here.
If this were an actual race, I would say that his tire blew the way his car just went down to the inside wall all of a sudden. Check it, see if you can go inside the car and see what happened to his wheel at the time. There we go. Perfect. Oh. Yeah. No, but that's also almost inevitable when you have a contact that hard. It's going to happen.
Here we go. As we're going to look once again. Just watch that wheel. Yeah, he lost a tire.
Something. Well, it's either he lost the tire or his wheel completely disconnected, because his wheel went just straight to the left.
Oh yeah, that's true. Here it goes.
I mean,
yeah, that's a wheel. That's a hardware issue.
Yeah, I don't think that's even a tire. Yeah, that went to the left too fast to be. I don't know if he could have reacted to the tire going down that fast. And just, I don't know if that would have been his reaction. Just turn the wheel hard left at that point. Anyway.
Well, Dan Morgan's going to lead us down pit road this time, while Mike Wright is going to regain the race lead. So anyway, we were talking about some of the people that we've had in this league previously, and last night checking in was Barrett Coffey. Of course, once upon a time, one of the more dominant drivers in this league, who has moved on to other projects here on iRacing.
Huge competitor, and I race with him in officials quite often. So yeah, he's a great guy and a great competitor. Just you knew every week that you were going to get everything that he had.
It's funny. I had such a weird relationship with Barrett at first, because I'll never forget the night at Talladega in the Truck Series where I got down low and couldn't get out of his way fast enough, and I got ran over as I was down a lap, or at least one lap. But anyway, I was trying to get out of the way, and of course, got cussed out on the radio. And then a couple of weeks later, I was running in a money race on a Friday night. I forget who it was for. I think it was Feg PC. And I asked him to be my spotter, and some of the tips that he gave me that night were just spot on. And all of a sudden, I'm qualifying in the top 5, and I was in the money that night. And it was one of the few times I'd been in the money in a money race. And it was just like, oh my, And all of a sudden, we went from he has to hate me to I really would like to hang out with this guy.
Yeah, I have another Barrett story, and it actually garnered me a win, if you can believe it, in another league. It was a race at Daytona. I had Barrett, I had Joseph Lester that is raced in the league, and Lauren Jones, and they were all racing with me, and we pushed each other, and I got in the position towards the end of the race, and they pushed me as hard as they could, and we wound up finishing 1, 2, 3, 4 in the race, and we all got to celebrate in the infield, and it was just a cool deal. Unfortunately, the broadcaster wasn't SRM; it was a different broadcaster. Apparently didn't do post-race interviews, so none of us got to do any interviews after the race.
Oh,
for
wow. That is kind of cool. I mean, it's neat when, and of course, for me, similarly, when you get to see some of the other people here in the league in the public servers. A couple of weeks ago, Bob brought one of the cables that I needed to reattach my wheel to the desk here, as the rig itself is upstairs and out of commission. But I thought, all right, I'm going to try to just go out driving for a little bit for an afternoon a couple of weeks ago, and I hit the public server and saw a couple of guys from here in the league, and the microphone keys up, and it's, Dave, is that you? Yeah, it's me. I don't know what I'm doing here, but here I am. It was a really cool experience. And sometimes as we go back green flag racing on 136, sometimes I think that's the coolest part about this league, because everybody races in at least, one division here. Plus then you wind up in, another league or a public server during the week for practice, and you cross paths and you get to know one another. Because as you've said before, I mean, some of these guys are here 3 nights a week racing in all 3 divisions. And it creates a lot of camaraderie, and obviously it benefited you, with Joseph Lester and Barrett Coffey, and to be anywhere near those 2 drivers. Whoa! Kavaja Holt nearly caught the front of Sylvain Joly here. To be anywhere near those drivers and on the same lap as them was always kind of a quiet goal that I had for myself, as Mike McConville gets tight here, as Chris Custer falling behind Alexander Gangler. Everybody here on the lead lap just came down between 133 and 135, so everybody seems to be on that same strategy now, as Mike Wright hits the turbo button and pulls away from Ethan Ball by 0.8 of a second, Chris.
Yep. And I suspect that Mike is going to continue to stretch that lead out. He's hard enough to battle with when he doesn't have the clean air, but when he does have the clean air, and it's just up to him driving his lap and conserving the way he normally does, yeah, he just checks out, and you don't want to use the term stinks up the broadcast, but with 60 laps to go, if we don't have a caution, it's liable to be a 5 to 7 second gap before the end of this race, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, the fortunate thing here is that for whatever reason, these Xfinity cars are running so close together. I mean, I saw it last night for the first time in a long time, some good side-by-side racing in the Cup cars. The Cup cars seem to react a lot better when they go single file and you're picking off one driver at a time. But these Xfinity cars still handle like the Cup cars of old, and they allow you to go side-by-side. They allow you to kind of beat and bang on one another just a little bit more, as we watch Alexander Gangler here with a rearview mirror full of Nick Hansen in the 99. Now Hansen looks to the inside of Gangler. He's starting to peak here. Now Gangler shoots here into turn 3 a little bit earlier. Hansen's going to stay here on the high side. We're going to keep it right here because I'm curious to see. There it is. All of a sudden, Gangler tightens up and kisses the wall. That allows Hansen to close the gap just a little bit more. This is quite a battle that Hansen and Gangler are involved in right now, as suddenly they're going to go fender to fender coming out of 2.
And that wall in the Trioval is becoming like the new Darlington with the stripe. Is like you're almost, every race that you're in, you're probably going to kiss that wall with your right rear sometime during the race if you're pushing it hard enough. Maybe Mike Wright and some of the more seasoned guys won't have that happen, more disciplined guys. But for everyone else, you're probably going to at least give it a little kiss sometime during the race. Kind of reflecting on what you said about the Xfinity cars versus the Cup cars, I think that's why a lot of the guys in this series prefer this car, because it does drive like the old Cup car. It's not as aero dependent. You don't see the drafting effect as much in as many races as you do with the Cup car. And it just has a different, for me, I prefer the Cup car. I seem to I'm more comfortable in it. But for those that aren't, they call it kind of snappy and twitchy or whatever, and you overcorrect. And it probably has to do with your driving style too. If you're a very aggressive driver that is on the edge, you're probably going to experience it a lot more than someone like me that's a lot more conservative the way I approach it.
Well, yeah, and I remember when the next-gen car made its appearance, and you and I both have maintained our opinion that I do like the Cup car. It's weird. The series that I wound up in the playoffs in back in 2022 is the one that made me decide that I wanted to broadcast instead, starting in 23. No, I lied. 21 was my last year in the Xfinity series, and I thought, this car is just too much to handle. But now looking back, I think to myself, wow, these cars are a lot more fun, for beating and banging purposes. But that next-gen car is just, miles beyond what this is technologically. Of course, independent suspension and that fifth gear makes a huge difference. We saw that last night in the Cup Series as we are 55 laps to go now here at Texas Motor Speedway. I want to welcome everybody into the youtube.com live chat. I see Uncle Scott checking in once again as he has just gotten the hang of the YouTube live chat. Dr. Spoculus saying this isn't fun to watch at all, so I'm sorry, Dr. Spoculus, you're more than welcome to change channels. As Lauren Sidney is cheering on the 63 car, and Princeton says his night ended because a guy needed to take a shirt off and stop on track. That sucks. Okay, that's different. That'll be a fun discussion in Discord later, Chris.
Oh yes, yeah, sure it will be. It's going to be a lively discussion. Even when we have a race as clean as last night, people can always find something to talk about. Never a dull moment.
Well, and one of the things that I think benefits this league, especially, this league, really all three of the divisions of SNN are some of the most watched here on Sim Racing Media. I mean, first off, over the last 2 years, we've really expanded the subscribers and the folks that pay attention to us. But, right now we just crested that century mark at our 101 views. We've had upwards of 600. And, during the Sunday races when people are online looking for the pirated NASCAR streams, they come across us. And the fun thing, there it is, the 00 coming from Princeton. The interesting thing is while they're looking for those pirated streams, they come across us, and it takes them just long enough to react and realize that they're watching iRacing and not real racing, that they wind up watching us for at least, 5, 6, 7 laps, and they're like, oh, these aren't names that I know at all.
And I believe the way the algorithm works is the more people that there are that do that the other people that it's going to show up in their suggestions also when they go to search for it. So it's kind of it's an effect that is going to cause others to be able to maybe appreciate what we do. And certainly when the real race is affected by weather, then it really helps our numbers a lot in those cases.
Yeah, rain delays in real NASCAR are very good for iRacing, that's for sure. And you're correct about the algorithm. The more people that get their eyeballs here onto Monday Night NASCAR, that's the more times that's going to be randomly suggested by YouTube. And I'm more than fine with that. I'm always glad to have new eyeballs here. And if you are new, make sure that you subscribe and turn on those bell notifications, as that's going to help us get more eyeballs to what we do here. And speaking of what we do, we've got right now 6 nights of racing. As I just clicked the wrong link here. Wait a second. Here we go. Of course, here we are on Monday night, and this is kind of a quiet night for SRM. Of course, it's just us here in Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series action, and then SCL kicked off at 9. Tuesday and Wednesday nights are hugely busy for Sim Racing Media. Of course, Tuesday, Racers Lead is at 7:35. Then I'm back again on SNN Trucks at 7. Well, it says 7:40, but it's 8:15. The Extreme Series features Liam and Jordan, and then Western States Racing League is the nightcap with Mike and Alan at 10:20 Eastern. Wednesdays, I finally get a merciful night off during the week. And Roughneck goes live at 7 p.m., Racers Elite at 7:30, and Extreme Cup for a triple header on a Wednesday. Then Thursday, I'm the only game in town, but you can tune in with myself and Daniel Paulus as a couple of Pennsylvania boys bring you the Racers Elite Cup Series at 7:30. We've got a doubleheader on Saturday with ISNF, and of course ECR at 9 p.m. with Liam and Emily, and what a great broadcast team that is becoming. And of course Sunday night, it all comes down to prime time right here on Sim Racing Media as myself and Matt Metler bring you all of the SNN Cup Series action at 8 p.m. every Sunday night. And believe me, I say it with tongue-in-cheek sometimes, but it feels a lot like Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth in the broadcast booth on the Sunday night.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are two of the top people at SRM for certain, and really two of the top that I've heard just on any of the iRacing broadcasts. And it's nice to be able to have that continuity from week to week, because you guys know the guys in the league as well as anyone, and can follow the storyline along the way, and it makes for a lot more interesting broadcasts when it's not just some random guys that you're talking about and names and numbers. You actually are familiar with how each of the guys have made their way through up to this point, and can be able to recognize those that have shown improvement throughout the season. And it definitely goes noticed. I mean, that's one of the things that I listen for in the broadcast, because I like hearing both of your perspectives on how each driver has been able to improve over the course of the season, and maybe the ones that are not showing the best judgment can also go the other way. And really appreciate everything that you guys do, and you make it really entertaining, just regardless whether you're talking about the race or when there's cautions, talking about the A1 sauce or whatever the case may be. I will have to say, though, I don't think that you've broken me yet, so I only have to make it another 40 laps.
Yeah,
before that
I think this is going to be a tough one to crack, because we've spent so much time in Discord together that you're used to my shtick. While, a couple of weeks ago, I was trying out a new commentator partner here at Sim Racing Media, and it turns out that they warned him about me. Apparently somebody said to him, listen, just be careful, because Dave has been known to try to break his partner on the air, and I can't do it to you. It just, we've spent so much time in Discord together and watching races, whether we're both sitting there getting repairs done or just kind of, jawing while we turn laps. This one's probably the hardest that I've ever had. You might be the one person who's immune to it.
Well, it goes back to what you're saying. I think that we've known each other for so long that we know most of the things that might cause me to break. So it happens, though, to even the best. I know that Saturday Night Live had a skit this past week, and it was essentially two guys dressed up like Beavis and Butthead in the audience, and they could not. Ryan Gosling and the other people that were in the skit could not stop laughing during the entire time. They could not hold it together. They just, every time it showed one of them dressed up as Beavis or one of them dressed as Butthead, the other one just cracked up. They couldn't even hardly get their lines out. And I actually like that. I think that it makes it more authentic when they don't try to do things so perfect and just let things, kind of materialize.
Well, and it shows that they're human. I mean, of course, when we're watching, a sitcom like, Cheers or Seinfeld, you don't realize how many takes it took to get one scene, into the can. It's kind of like I watch This Old House on the weekend sometimes, and they make it look so easy and so effortless, but they didn't show you the time that they were just kicking the door and cussing at a door frame or a window frame. I mean, there's Norm Abram, who I swear to God does a line of Valium right before he goes to record This Old House. Oh yeah, we're gonna build this out of teak wood. And you don't realize that he split 3 boards before he finally got one to go, during their show. It's just, so when you get to see, Saturday Night Live, who basically flies without a net, kind of like we do here on SRM, eventually something's got to give, especially when you've got a masterfully written skit like they did.
Yeah, and it's one of the better ones I've seen lately. I forget what he called the guy back there when he was talking about Beavis. Is it the guy back there in the pompadour or something like that? That boy is just that curly hair that he has, curly frizzy hair, and of course, growing up during the area when Beavis and Butthead were very, very popular, but definitely was good to see them, be brought back to the popular culture again.
The era of Beavis and Butthead is starting to fade for so many people, and I know that they've got the revival series on Paramount Plus, and I was really hoping Mike Judge was going to bring back King of the Hill. I know that they had talked about it, then some things happened. It was supposed to be a Hulu series, but the people that grew up watching Beavis and Butthead, like myself or you, we're starting to get old enough where we're to that point in our lives as Richard Pruitt comes down pit road, Michael Witt doing the same thing, as now Saturday Night Live, I had to watch it Sunday afternoon after it was recorded. Mm-hmm. That's how I know when I've gotten too old.
Yeah, I have so many different options for watching Saturday Night Live. It's like, do I watch it on Xfinity? Do I watch it on YouTube TV? Do I just watch it on Peacock without the commercials the next day? It's most of the time I watch it the next day because it comes on at 10:30 Central, and while I'm usually up till a little bit later than that, I find it better just to watch it the next day.
Oh yeah.
And, I'm not usually watching or reading the news the next day or anything. I try to stay away from that so I don't have any of the skits spoiled.
Well, and I've said so many times, I mean, one of the things that I'm jealous of course, you being in the Central Time Zone, that, we get done here. I mean, right now it's 10:30 on the East Coast, and Central Time Zone, you're only at 9:30. It's still kind of young in the evening. I've always wanted to go in, and I told Frank Marchese, as I'm planning a trip to San Diego to hang out with him, I would almost like to go to San Diego during football season because I want to watch Sunday Night Football and see the final seconds tick off while the sun is still up. To me, it's such a weird thing to think about that, here, you're able to go to church and then get home and watch pregame at pre-pregame at 11 on Fox, and then pregame at noon on Fox or CBS if you feel like you're 105. But here it is out there. They literally have to eat breakfast while they watch pregame, because while it's 11 here on the East Coast, it's 8 o'clock in the morning in San Diego, and Sunday Night Football starts at 5:30 on a Sunday night instead of 8:30 here on the East Coast. To me, it's still hard to wrap my brain around. I know that we've been doing time zones for over 150 years, but it's just something that always fascinates me. Speaking of fascinating, Mike McConville here working the high side over top of John Bawalda, who's down a couple of laps right now. He's got Brad Gunn in the 91 just underneath him as they're going to go side by side down the backstretch. Looks like the 24 now of Richard Pruitt going to get his lap back the old-fashioned way, or at least he's working toward it right now. He would be the lucky dog. Brandon Minto, the last car on the lead lap, which, of course, he's still quite a distance away from his teammate. We are all of a sudden at 31 to go, going to be 30 to go this time by, Chris. This all of a sudden, stage 3 is just ripping past our eyes.
Right. And this is going to be very interesting when these guys decide to hit. We're seeing a few of them come in, and who out there thinks that they need to stay on the track, and there's for sure going to be another caution, or is everyone spread out enough to where you feel like you can risk it and be able to make up some and take advantage of the new tires by coming in, in the 5 to 10 laps and having enough time to be able to make up some spots on the track.
Well, I mean, looking here, Mike Wright and Ethan Ball, everybody here in the top 10 is 37 and 36 laps since their last pit stop on 133 or 134
Right.
for Rich Jett. So the thing is, now, Mike Wright is one of those drivers where I don't think he's going to come in first, or if he does, Ethan Ball is going to drive in right behind him. But Mike Wright is probably able to stay out there longer than everybody else, put a bunch of distance between himself and Ethan Ball, and then quick come down, get a splash of fuel, and 4 tires. And here he comes. Oh, and he just faked out Ethan Ball.
He has all the tricks up his sleeve, not just saving tires. The entire package is there, and
well,
I would be surprised if Ethan was not down the next time around. He's looking for the caution. He's looking for that caution to come out, because he's thinking what's going to happen is there's going to be guys that are coming in. They're going to try to really push things too hard with their tires and create a caution. I've done that before. I've played that strategy before. Definitely.
He wouldn't be wrong. Ethan Ball, he knows what those odds are, for gambling purposes. And
there it is.
There it is. Oh my goodness.
Yep, he just won the lottery.
And Kavaja Holt may have been involved in this when we see him coming out of 2. Whoa! Oh, and got T-boned.
I thought somebody went to Dairy Queen for a second.
No, it looks like just a connection issue, but my goodness. Well, Kavaja can't be happy, as it looks like, that right front tire looks like it's seen better days here on the 00 as he tries to get turned around.
It's really hard to get going once you get turned on this track, at least safely.
Well, and I mean, cold tires, 122-degree asphalt temperature, that's a recipe for disaster, as Ethan Ball is now going to get the tires that he needs. I mean, this is...
He called Mike and Richard and numerous others a lap down by that happened. So good for him. He did what he wanted to do, and it worked out for him. So, with only 20 laps remaining in this race, by the time we go green, somewhere along there, it's going to be a good chance for him to really push his car. He won't have to save too much, I don't think, to make it to the end.
No, 25 laps to go now as the 96 of Ethan Ball comes down for pit service. That's going to cycle Alexander. Oh, Jesus mighty. Gangler does this all the time. This drives me nuts. He stays out here thinking that he knows something that we don't. And bad things happen to him on the restart almost every time.
Well, if there is something good about what he's done, he will be the leader and not in second place. It's when you're in second place and you stay out that you can completely stack up that second line because you don't get going or you spin the tires. Not to say that you can't spin the tires as the leader, but as long as he is careful about the way that he does this restart, then he should be fine. I don't know how long that he'll be able to maintain out in front, but it shouldn't cause too many problems as far as the actual restart is concerned.
Well, with that in mind, let's see if I can get a hold of Alexander, because
bring him in there.
I swear every time he does this, it scares the living daylights out of me. And of course now I can't find him in the chat. Come on. Alexander Gangler.
I can help you look. Hold on.
Oh, here he is. I got him.
There he is. Okay.
Hey, Gangler, it's Regal and Chris Claude up here in the booth. You got me?
I do.
What are you doing out there?
Find something different.
Oh, it's different, all right. Suddenly I become Ralph Cramden. It's different, all right. I mean, listen, everybody behind you just came in for fresh tires. You're on, much older tires. What do you think the strategy is going to be here with 23 laps to go?
Well, I'm hoping for exactly 15 laps before another yellow, because that's kind of when I'm almost out of gas. And then from there, I'll hopefully have fresh. I think I'm the only car with one set of tires left on the lead lap. So the goal is that I have a lot fresher tires, so we'll see how that works out.
So he has a plan. He's got a plan there.
Yeah, he's got a plan. If you're, a meth head in line just trying to get that next hit, my goodness. Listen, good luck to you, buddy. I'm watching you out here, and I'm looking at everybody with the fresh tire brigade coming from behind you. So, I hope that may the odds ever be in your favor.
All right, have a good one there, Dave.
All right, buddy. So we're going to send Alex back on up into the Bandit Motorsports stable with Kavaja Holt and Randall Watkins. As Randall Watkins has become my one of my favorite people to talk to between races, as he's a retired firefighter out of Miami-Dade County, and I was really sad he was dealing with some health problems when I was down in Miami last October. I look forward to trying to touch base with him this year for our Miami trip, because he just seems like a really cool guy. We've gotten some really cool new people in the league the last 2 years, and Randall Watkins is one of them. As we see him here in the 27, trapped down a couple of laps, running in 20th position, but just a cool paint scheme here on the 27.
Yeah.
Got that slime green rating. In the fire department, we call that, right here on that right rear quarter panel and on the deck lid, that's called slime green, and that just simply happens to be the chosen color of the Miami-Dade Fire Department. And, I mean, good for them, but to me, all fire trucks should be red, of some persuasion. Call me a traditionalist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is very traditional.
Going to be 22 laps to go when the green flag flies. 9th caution, 7th for cause. So, overall, Chris, a very clean race tonight. These drivers have managed to keep it between the lines for the most part. And don't look now, but after, such bad luck earlier, Brandon Minto has crept his way up here into 3rd position as, Uncle Scott cheers on here from the YouTube.com live chat. So all of a sudden, Brandon Minto just went from, relative hiding to, having a shot at leading this race. Teammate Mike Wright running an 8th right now. The iRacing.com pace car peels on down pit road. The man in the stand has the green flag in his hand. They hit the Geico restart zone, and we're underway.
Oh.
Here they go. There goes Watkins. Can't find him fast enough. That's going to send Matt Gaskins down pit road. And almost instantly, Alexander Gangler is gobbled up by everybody in the fresh tire brigade. From my mouth to God's ears. Ethan Ball takes control of the lead. He's got Brockton Packard in hot pursuit now. We're just approaching that 20 to go mark, and this is just the witching hour on the racetrack as we take a quick peek here. Still 121 degrees, that track temperature coming down, but it's probably going to be this hot the rest of the race, with now 20 to go.
You were talking about Jackie Gleason not long ago, and I think you said hot pursuit. I started thinking of Smoking and the Bandit. I'm in hot pursuit.
What we have here is a failure to communicate. Did you know? Now this is just a dumb fact that I came across. I was scrolling the TikTok, and I'd say the TikTok, but did you know that the Honeymooners was only like 39 episodes long? Like they make such a big deal. They make such a big deal out of the Honeymooners being one of the very first sitcoms in television history, and it's only like 39 episodes.
That is very surprising, and when you really think about it, 39 episodes would have been like one season a long time ago. Their seasons were a lot longer than they are now.
Yeah, there weren't like midwinter breaks.
Right.
Yeah, I was watching an interview that Gleason did on Johnny Carson, and obviously while he was still alive. I almost said while he was still alive. It would be weird if Carson was interviewing a corpse. But, I saw Jackie Gleason, he goes, and Carson starts talking about, 39 episodes. And I thought, wait, are you serious? And I had to go to Wikipedia to confirm it. A little rub of the wall there out of Rich Jett in the double natural. 18 laps to go at the line. Ethan Ball leading the way now with Brockton Packard about 0.3 of a second behind. Rich Jett getting ready to do battle here with Brandon Minto, and Minto has waited until now to start unleashing the full force of that Ford Mustang going down the back chute.
You can't keep that guy down. He has learned from a lot from Mike Wright for one thing. But he's really just come into his own, and he won the Xfinity Championship last year. He is leading the points, I believe, at some point this year, and in the Truck Series, he's very strong there also. So wherever he's at, he's going to be in the conversation.
Well, and, speaking of being in the conversation, we see Brandon Minto running in 4th position right now. Teammate Mike Wright is just behind in 6th. So Rich Jett, kind of a quote-unquote sitting duck, as he's got the Team Ferda teammates on either side of him. If I was Rich Jett, I would just roll over and play dead. This is the time to just get out of the way, because those guys with 16 to go, this is where they're going to reach up there and find that extra gear. Rich Jett shoving Brandon Minto down the back chute. My goodness. He basically just bump drafted to try to stay away from Mike Wright, but all that did was seems to inflame Mike Wright coming out of turn 4. He looks to the inside of Minto. All of a sudden here, he goes to the inside through the quad oval, hauls it into turn 1, and that opens the door for Mike Wright to put the hurt on the 77 of Rich Jett, making the exit out of turn 2.
Mike, he is got a lot of work to do, along with Brandon. 15 laps to go. These guys can pretty much push it just about as hard as they want to. It's not a matter of tire saving anymore, and the race is not exactly gone the way Mike wanted. He did not want to see that caution come out earlier, for sure. It is kind of messed up his whole strategy, and we've got an entirely new set of guys in the podium at this point.
No, but I'll tell you what, right now, if somebody needs to send Zach Osborne an urgent text or telegram, if you must, get out of the way. Mike Wright is starting to march his way back toward the lead with 13 laps to go. God forbid the caution comes out, and that puts Osborne and Packard at the very least, right between the crosshairs for Team Ferda. And these guys, if there was ever a reason that I needed to travel to Norman, Oklahoma, it is to shake the hand of Brandon Minto, because he's just been incredible to watch the last couple of seasons here in the Xfinity Series. Greensboro, North Carolina, there can't be very much. I'm assuming that there's a gas station and probably an Elks Club or a Moose Lodge, and that's about it. As Mike Wright serves lunch to Zach Osborne, he's got the hairnet on. It's time for everybody to come in for the rectangle pizza.
Yeah, Zach, he's going to try to maybe cross him back over, but he did about everything that he could to try to hold him off, and just Mike Wright and the tires were just too much for him to overcome.
Mike Wright crawls his way into 3rd. He's got about 1.8 seconds to Packard. He's going to need a caution, assuming that, in fact, let's take a look right here at the lap time between Packard and Wright. Wright running about 0.05 of a second slower than Brockton Packard, and Brock right now about 1/4 of a second behind Ethan Ball. But Mike Wright, once he gets out here, that air is pretty clean in front of the 98. He's got a shot, but I don't think he's got enough laps to complete the pass.
The best thing that Brockton could do is not fight Ethan, but work with him, draft even with him, stay right behind him. That's going to be the best thing they can do. If they start racing each other, if he starts racing him too early, all it's going to do is bring Mike right back up to them. Even being 2 seconds behind, he can make up that time if they make a mistake in a heartbeat.
You're exactly right,
I don't really like. I think Brockton would be better off just doing like he's doing now and just sticking behind him, just following his lead, waiting for his time about 3 laps to go, and then he can start to work on him a little bit for the win.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And as you say that, you're perfect on that one. Oh, maybe he's
going.
He's going to try to get greedy here with
try to
9
get
to go.
I don't know what their tire differential is if they came into the pit at the same time or not.
Looks like they both came in on 175.
Okay, so they're on equal tires.
But now Brockton gets ahead of Ethan Ball as they've opened up the lead between themselves and Mike Wright to 2.45 seconds back to Wright. So, at this stage in the race, maybe they've got enough room to try to go up here and do-si-do a little bit as if we're square dancing in the old barn. But Zach Osborne here has now slid back into 6th position. Brandon Minto has worked his way to 4th. He's got to hold off Rich Jett in the 77. Mike Wright is kind of in the perfect position right now to just get himself a podium finish, bring it home nice and clean. But if I was Brockton Packard or Ethan Ball, I would be horrified to see the yellow flag, because that's going to put them right into the clutches of Mike Wright.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is Mike already has a win. So he's got that, the playoffs taken care of as long as he stays in the top 20. He got 2 stage wins, so that's more playoff points. It's going to be disappointing to not get the win tonight, but it's more important for someone like Packard to be able to notch off a win, or Ethan Ball. Ethan has at least been in the series long enough to be able to get high enough in the points to make it on points if he doesn't get a win. Packard coming in this late, a win would definitely help his case if he continues to race and stays in the top 20. He would be able to notch a spot in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Well, things didn't work out for Alexander Gangler as he's going to come down pit road and lose a lap here. Brockton Packard, the race leader. Listen, 5 laps to go, and these drivers have managed to keep it clean all night long. I mean, in his debut race, Brock Packard looks like he's trying to set himself up to bring home the win. And you talk about the stage points, and I see it every week when I'm putting the points in for at least the Cup Series. For some reason, I can't get it to work for the Xfinity every week. I have to work on that at some point this week when I have a free minute. But as I look at some of the points, I mean, you may get wrecked out or something bad happens to you during a race, so you don't get as many points for raw points for finishing. But those bonus points are suddenly what bolsters some of these guys. Staying in the top 20, you're in that boat in all 3 leagues, all 3 divisions. As we're 4 laps to go, rolling out of turn 4 is Brock Packard crossing the start-finish line, 3 laps to go. Brock Packard has bided his time all night long. He leads Ethan Ball and Mike Wright, who dominated early on in this race, and just by sheer dumb luck, winds up running in 3rd instead of the lead. But Wright has Brandon Minto hot on his trail. With 3 laps to go now, it looks like Brock Packard is going to be able to hold off Ethan Ball as he's now opened up that lead to 0.86 seconds. He rolls out of 4, crosses the start-finish line. 2 laps to go. The popsicle sticks are in the air.
Yeah, I don't think Ethan let him get too far away. He must have not been able to stay in his draft behind him and basically just trying to mimic his lap. I was thinking that's what he was going to do, and just kind of wait for his moment and try to get back in front of him or race him toward the end. But he could already be doing that right now with a 4-second lead. I think that they could almost start racing side by side if it was that close. But he's stretched out to almost a second now, so it seems like it's gonna be a wrap on this one.
Yep, the popsicle sticks go down. The white flag is in the air. We're racing back to checkers. Ethan Ball now trailing by more than a second, now 1.1 seconds behind Brockton Packard, who in his debut race hauls it into turn 3 one final time here. So what a way to come into this league and make a statement, as Brock Packard, doing the same thing as Parker Retzlaff did at Richmond in his debut here, captures the checkered flag. Brock Packard, you are a winner here in the MNN Xfinity Series. He's followed on the podium by Ethan Ball and Mike Wright. Brandon Minto, Rich Jett, Sylvain Joly, Kavaja Holt, Michael Witt, Richard Pruitt, and Chris Custer round out your top 10 here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a really good race, and not exactly the way that I thought that it was going to work out. The way Mike dominated it early in the race, he still does wind up, with a podium spot, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and grab them and bring them down so we can set them up for interviews.
Brockton Packard in the number 63 Niner Esports Chevrolet Camaro brings home the checkered flag tonight. What an awesome finish for him, and of course, kind of a nice welcome to the MNN Xfinity Series. Hey, Brock, it's Dave Regal up here in the broadcast booth alongside Chris Custer. You got Chris Claude. You got a copy?
I got you guys loud and clear.
Man, listen, first of all, you've got the chief cook and bottle washer sitting alongside of me tonight, so he got to see you put on a show here at the end of this race. You managed to make the pass around Ethan Ball after qualifying on the outside of row 1. How does it feel as you get ready to do your Polish victory lap down the front stretch?
Oh, man, it's amazing. First, I got to thank Ethan. He was kind enough to invite me tonight. Him and I work at Jordan Anderson's together, so I got a huge shout-out to Ethan. He raced me clean all night. It was super fun. These guys are way more talented than I was expecting, just walking in here sight unseen, and these guys were ripping around all over the place, aggressive, and man, it was just super nice to get this Niner Esports 63 Chevy Camaro down in victory lane, and man, just a lucky caution at the end is what got it for us.
Yeah, sometimes you wind up on the upside of that caution coming out when it does, and other times you wind up on the low side, but this time you wind up, two thumbs way up, as, Siskel and Ebert would say, and, as you do your Polish victory lap, I got to say, welcome here to the MNN Xfinity Series, and, we're glad to have you with us tonight. What are you looking forward to? As I hope that you're going to make this a more permanent part of your race week.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good, relaxing time sometimes, and sometimes it got a little aggressive, and that's what I like to see. Good, hard racing, and I'm looking forward to kind of how everybody races each other in some of the other tracks. This Texas is a bit of a tough one because you get loose down in the middle of the corners, the big bump in 3 and 4. You got to give some room, so it'll be interesting to see next week at Dega, just how the pack racing is here, and man, I'm excited.
And Brockton, I want to say, this is Chris. I want to say congratulations on the win. I would have loved to be in the race with you tonight, but wanted to be up here in the booth with Dave for a night and check everything out. And just want to congratulate you and say you're in the playoffs as long as you can finish in the top 20 in points at the end of the season, which you have plenty of time to do. Even getting a little bit of a late start in the league, getting that win already knocked out will help your case quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm excited, man, and I appreciate the warm welcome. It's not every day that you get to go to a league and everybody accepts you on your first race, so really appreciative to y'all, the whole league, the admins. It was a pretty good race tonight.
A good race it was. Well, listen, before we cut you loose here, who do you need to thank and tip your helmet to and give a shout-out tonight?
I mean, of course, I got to tip my hat to Ethan Ball for even getting me in here tonight. Niner Esports, UNC Charlotte, excuse me. Friends and family watching at home, Lauren, mom, dad. Just an awesome debut.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, we'll see you next week at Talladega Super Speedway, my favorite racetrack. And listen, good luck. Go ahead and celebrate with the team.
Thanks, guys.
And Chris, I believe you have with you now Ethan Ball, as he's going to be finishing P2 tonight.
Yeah, hi Ethan. Good to talk to you in another setting other than inside the race. We just talked to Brockton, who you just brought into the series, and obviously he had a great run tonight and pulled off the win. So what do you think that you could have done differently? I was talking to Dave during the race, and it seemed like that he was able to follow behind you, and then you were able to follow behind him, and then he was pulling away with about 5 to go. Is there anything you could have done differently?
Oh yeah, man. It was a good run. Brock, he's a good buddy of mine, so that was cool to race it out. You know, we give each other a lot of room, and we were actually running 2 different setups, and we just had strengths in different parts of the racetrack. I seemed to be able to carry more speed in 3 and 4, but he could really get off at 2, where I just pushed it a little too much there at the start of that last run out front. You know, haven't started a whole lot of these races up at the front, so you know, just trying to save my tires a little bit more at the end there. I think we could have had a shot at him, but overall good run. We haven't had any top fives this year, so to get a P2 is solid. Just wish we could have had a little bit more.
Yeah, you had 2 out of the 3 JAR TCR, so that's a step in the right direction. And obviously, I think that with this finish, it should give you a lot of confidence knowing that you're just one step closer to getting that win, and you're already doing really well on the points. So that's something that hopefully there's some tracks that are coming up. I know Talladega is a wild card race for everyone, but we have Dover after that and some other good tracks that I think that will allow us to kind of maintain some of the good green flag racing that we've had the past 2 nights.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think the short tracks the last 2 weeks have just really bunched us up, so it's nice to spread out a little bit, and it's good to bring speed to a 1.5 mile track because we've got a bunch of those on the schedule. So if we can build off this and take this setup and tweak on it a little bit more, we'll be good to go for like Charlotte and some of those other traditional 1.5 mile tracks. So positive things this early in the season. Hopefully we can just keep getting good runs and be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to playoff time.
All right. Well, before I let you go, who gets it done for you every week, and who do you need to shout out?
Yeah, shout out to all the JAR TCR teammates. We've got a pretty good group, and we've been bringing fast cars to the racetrack, so it's been cool to watch. Shout out lenders. If you got a tool and you want to lease it out, don't let it sit in your garage collecting dust. Go to lenders.com and lease your tools out on there and make a little extra money. So thanks to everybody, and thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast.
Absolutely, Will.
All right, man. Well, listen, thank you very much as we're going to move him back on down here. And last but certainly not least, on the podium out of Greensboro, North Carolina, Mike Wright. Hey, Mike, it's Dave and Chris up in the booth. You got us?
I got you. What's going on?
Well, I would like to have thought that maybe you were going to sweep all 3 stages tonight, but you couldn't get it finished up here. I was kind of looking to see that late race caution come out, but it didn't happen for you. How do you find yourself in P3 tonight after starting on the pole?
Untimely cautions, pretty much. That last run kind of timed out with the fuel window being probably too far. You'd have to give up a lot of time to make it. So at that point, I decided, all right, I'll split it and I'll make the lap time back up. Which, if anybody was going to try to make it, they'd have to go a lot slower. So that was definitely working in the favor. And of course, you pit and you come off turn 2, and somebody just loses control into the wall on the inside behind you, and the caution came out. And it's nice that I got the lucky dog, but of course you start behind all the lap cars and everybody, and just working your way up. Didn't have enough time, and I tried to save my tires there just in case there was another restart late, but we didn't have one. So made, as they say, lemonade out of lemons the best we could.
You did. And here's the thing. You can't win them all. I mean, this is one that, I had on the schedule, and I thought, okay, we're back to the 1.5 miles, so we're going to see Mike Wright slide back up into the lead. Anytime, and I'm watching that gap start to split itself, 1.7 seconds, 8, 9, 2 seconds out, and I'm like, you know what, maybe this just isn't your night to bring home the checkered flag. But next week we go to Talladega. I know that super speedways give everybody fits. What are you thinking as we get ready to go 2.66 miles around the big super speedway?
Pedal to the middle and try not to wreck for a while, so you're there at the end, and then just see what happens. Like I said at Daytona back in February, it can be fun until it sucks. So yeah, I mean, there's skill involved, but when accidents happen, there's only so much you can do to avoid them, especially in this world where people don't feel the pain of the wreck.
Hey, Mike, I have a question real quick. Brandon, he made a fantastic comeback, but at one point in the race, he was super glued to the wall, and then his car just went down towards the inside wall. Since you were in the chat with him, do you know what happened to him earlier in the race?
Yeah, he uses VR, so his Oculus had some sort of issue that happened. So essentially, he was blind for that period of time. So he did the best he could. He pinned it to the wall. Then I think he just really affected himself, and of course the caution. but I don't think he hit anybody in the process. Which
No, he didn't. He did a great job, considering the fact that he couldn't see.
It's the best you can do if you can't see where you're going.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he made a good rebound. He was definitely backing up to make it on fuel, and he probably would have made it on fuel because he topped off. But I think he was going slow enough that cars that pitted may have worked back past him. But it paid off for him. He got the benefit of the caution, and he was able to maintain where he was, pick up a position or two. So he definitely recovered. He was like,
Oh yeah, I thought he was dead in the water, so he made a great recovery.
Yeah, he did a very good job for sure. He was excited at the end. He goes, "Hey, look at that! I finished right behind you. Nothing happened during the race."
Yeah, he has every reason to be excited. I mean, so do you. You know, still finishing P3 just ahead of your teammate. And as always, before we get you out of here, who do you need to thank and who helps you get it done every week?
Well, Mike and Minto with putting laps in. You know, I think we made some strides in the race or during the week for the race for the high temperatures, and I think it was obvious. I think obviously I was running strong, and the two of them seemed to make up time on the long run too. So I thought we were going to get the long run. We just didn't have that untimely caution, but they do a good job each week, and I got the two of you in the same spot. So thank you, my mans, for doing what you do with the broadcast and the races, putting them on.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, we appreciate the kind words as always, and yeah, it's been a privilege to sit here with you tonight, Chris. And you know, it's not often that you and I get to hang out in the same Discord channel anymore, but here we were, killing it for a change. And yep, you definitely made it survivable, as you didn't fall victim to anything crazy up here in the booth. So I couldn't break you, but I'll tell you what, Brockton Packard brings home the checkered flag tonight. He's followed on the podium by Ethan Ball and Mike Wright. Brandon Minto and Rich Jett round out the top five, while Sylvain Jolie, Kavaja Holt, Michael Witt, Richard Pruitt, and Chris Custer round out the top 10. Sam Bolin finishes in 11th, while Nick Hansen brings home 12th. Mike McConville and Brad Gunn finish 13th and 14th, while Dan Morgan and Alexander Gangler come home 15th and 16th. Zach Osborne finishes in 17th, while 18th position goes to Ron Fitting. Mike Pratchik and Randall Watkins round out the 20. Chris?
We have John Bawalda finishing 21st, Andrew Deemer in 22nd, Matt Gaskins in 23rd, Sean Morrow finished 24th, Ben Allen in 25th, John Wilco in 26th, Claude Furland in 27th, or Claude. That's right. Alex Princeton finishes 28th, Michael Studo 29th, and Matt Mackin rounds up to top 30.
Zachary Vaughn brings home 31st, Ken Ron in 32nd, Bryson Alexander comes home in 33rd, with Keith Black in 34th. Nolan Hodgson, after a dominant night last night, finishes 35th tonight, while Michael Danks, Charles Eaton, and Steve Herring round out the rest of the field. 38 drivers took the green flag. Not all 38 made it all the way through. But by the same token, we still saw some incredible racing. And Chris, I can't be more thankful for you because, you know, first of all, without you, I wouldn't even be here in the broadcast booth. And second of all, you gave me someone to talk to for a change on a Monday night.
Well, I appreciate the experience, and hopefully it was as enjoyable for you as it was for me. I, of course, will be glad to be back on the racetrack, especially for a track like Talladega next week, here next Monday night. But for tonight, I had to say it was a lot better than I thought that it was going to be, and I didn't miss it as much as I thought that I was going to. But certainly, I'll just treat this as some people miss races because of injury, so I'll just say that my wrist was too injured to race tonight, and I'll be back at it tomorrow night for the trucks.
Absolutely, and we look forward to that as well. So tomorrow night, make sure that you folks tune in once again at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time as we go green flag racing. Want to thank everybody for making us a part of your evening right here on Sim Racing Media. Thank you for welcoming us into your homes and onto your phones and however you may be watching and listening, as we are glad to have you tuning in every week. So for myself, Dave Regal, Chris Claude here with the Sunday Night NASCAR Family of Racing Series, and everybody here at Sim Racing Media, I want to thank you one more time. And tomorrow and every day, as you walk down the road of life, please don't play in traffic. Good night, everybody.